Part 40. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 392. When Yilin came out of the mine, her expression was calm. He saw the dog lying on the railway track, with its tail stretched out and a constipated look on its face. Walk. Yilin didn't explain much. Yilin said nothing about what happened in the mine. To avoid jealousy of Emperor Wang Tian. Unexpectedly, Yilin's experience points from this wave of leapfrog kills of 6 evil generals source devouring insect nest were not more than 500,000, but more than 5 million. In the mine, Yilin was dizzy because she concentrated too hard for too long, and could not see the huge magnitude for a while. This wave of terrifying experience points was enough for Yilin to reach level 66 in one fell swoop. 666. Halfway through, Yilin squinted her eyes and checked the system prompts that had not had time to fade from her retinas. Ding! Congratulations! You have completed the feat of crossing the 30-level gap and killing the 6 evil generals by leapfrogging levels. Your fearlessness and wisdom made Uranus feel helpless and completed the only hidden achievement, unprecedented, and probably no one will come in the future. Get the title, Rule Breaker. Obtain the special item Blessing of Auranos. Blessing of Auranos. Rarity unique. Effect when used in specific scenes, you can obtain the supreme blessing from the creator god Uranus. Explanation: when the real opportunity comes, you will understand the deep meaning of blessing. Weird props. Among the props, Uranus's blessing is a chestnut-shaped bead, crystal clear, and deep inside the chestnut, there is a strange symbol. The surface of the chestnut is also burning with a blue light effect like fireworks. The appearance of the entire prop looks like a chestnut that has been roasted until crispy. Used in specific scenarios. This explanation seems to be somewhat ambiguous. What is a specific scene? Yilin felt that instead of giving such a weird prop that he couldn't figure out how to use, it would be more practical to get a one sword 999 piece of equipment. Forget it, since it is the only level prop, it shouldn't be so confusing. Although this game is full of weirdness, the effect of equipping the props should be real. And this achievement, if it weren't for the specialness of the origin-eating insect hive, the mechanism should be difficult to complete. If you calculate it this way, the level of the source-eating insect nest is at least LV 80 or above. Now, under the impact of that wave of over-level killing experience points, my level has approached level 70, and there is almost no chance to kill the boss beyond level 30 unless the setting of this game is unconventional. LV 99 is not the end. The origin-eating insect hive walked peacefully and died a bitter death. The most profound experience it left for Yilin seemed to be a unique-looking experience gift package. Other than that, there was nothing special about it. But even though 6 evil generals source devouring insect hive died without any cards, the experience it gave was truly rich. With bonuses such as leapfrog kills, more than 5 million experience points were directly given to Yilin, making Yilin enjoy the baptism of golden light from upgrades as if struck by lightning. When he was chased and bitten by the mighty crystal-eating insect, the upgraded golden light illuminated halfway before he stopped. After the golden light stopped flooding, the crystal-eating insects lost sight of Yilin, allowing Yilin to escape safely. Yilin instantly rose to level 16. The most important thing after upgrading is naturally adding points. Yilin kept a straight face, trying not to laugh out loud in front of Guzi, and quietly opened the God's Gift panel. Bang 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 bang. This was the first time that Yilin was trying harder. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. Agility at 0.4. Ouch. New skill. Assassin's true meaning? Looks good. Continue. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. Agility at 0.4. Skills again? Nothing special, no surprises. Snapped. Leap of faith? Not sure why. Continue. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 3%. Spirit at 0.4. Yilin's mouth twitched slightly. The good assassin started to increase his spiritual attributes again. But Yilin clicked on it anyway. Transformation. Call. The God-given point was finally finished, and Yilin let out a long sigh of relief. It's really tiring to add more. Wang Tiandi seemed to notice something and turned his head suddenly, his eyes full of doubts. Yilin coughed twice, raised her head, and looked up at the sky. The weather is really nice today. Emperor Wang Tian looked at the gray sky. The weather is great? Yilin ignored the confused Wang Tiandi and took advantage of his free time to check out the 3 newly unlocked assassin skills. The true meaning of the assassin. Type passive. Consumption none. Effect after hundreds of battles, you have mastered the true meaning of the assassin. Knowing damage add 100%. Yilin was shocked. Among the God-given points, there are also God-given points that add knowing damage. But most of them are just drizzle of 5%, 10%, and 20%. And this passive skill doubled in an instant? Ridiculous. Yilin secretly sighed at the power of the skill and took a look at the next skill. Leap of Faith. Type map. Restrictions: it can only be used after shouting Auranos is on loudly. Effect: falling from a height with a specific, graceful, and gorgeous jumping posture can reduce 99.9% of fall damage. Note: there is a certain risk of falling from high altitude, please use with caution. You are a skill that can only be unlocked at Dang Dang level 60. How could this be? Yilin suddenly felt a little disappointed. This is the God-given skill unlocked at level 60? Well. After a while, Yilin sighed softly. She had gained and lost, and she was no longer entangled. The God-given skills unlocked at LV 65 are: Transformation. Type active, combat. Consumption 50 crystal energy. Cooldown 3 rounds. Effect: throwing a dagger behind the enemy can instantly transfer the body to the location of the dagger, and surprise the enemy to launch a righteous backstab. Damage add 100%. This skill is pretty good. To be fair, if Yilin was an average turn-based assassin, this skill would be enough to make Yilin ecstatic. Unfortunately, Yilin is not. Why is it a combat state skill? Yilin felt regretful. After receiving the 6 Evil Generals experience gift package, he finally sorted out the gains after upgrading. Although the unlocking of the God-given skills left Yilin speechless, overall, this gift package is really delicious. Faced with a wide variety of titles, Yilin still equipped Intermediate Engineer after weighing the pros and cons. After all, this title, which reflects the technical level, seems to have more connotation. On the way back, Yilin did not waste any time and waved his hand to summon Mount Night Dire. Wang Tiandi sat alone at the front of the car, and Yilin returned to the Great Engineer College as quickly as possible. Many days passed with this back and forth. Returning to the University of Engineering, Yilin found that the atmosphere in the whole city was a bit strange. On the streets, there are many NPCs without the title of engineer on their heads. Look at that familiar little butt again. Oh. It turned out to be someone from the Holy See of Auranos. Among the green and friendly NPCs, there are NPCs with red names and small buttocks mixed in from time to time, which is very dazzling. The Holy See? Why are the people from the Holy See here? Yilin noticed something strange from a distance and did not rush in rashly. After Wang Tiandi was settled and some hot pot ingredients were prepared in the wild for Guza to make tooth sacrifices, Yilin returned to the great engineer tower alone. At the same time, Adeng and other 5 great engineers were discussing important matters in the Supreme Conference Room. Trouble, I didn't expect the Holy See to issue an ultimate wanted order for your students. Yes. Adeng frowned, not knowing what to do. At this time, we must not break up with the Holy See. After all, the power of the Holy See in Yunhai is too great. Ahem, do you really want to hand over my students? Adeng asked cautiously. No, no, no. The old dean, wearing a wizard hat that had not yet turned green, with grey hair and beard, stroked his beard and smiled. It's not necessary, we didn't list the name of the brave in the student list, therefore, even the Holy See has no evidence to prove that their wanted criminals are hidden in our college. But it's strange. They are obviously the braves who will save the world in the prophecy. Why would the Holy See want them? This is what I can't figure out. By the way, your student hasn't been contacted yet. This question is for Adeng. Arrive. I'm asking if you've been contacted yet. Where did you get there? Adeng looked confused. No, no, that's not what I said. Just as the 5 old men were blowing their beards and staring, an innocent and kind voice sounded behind the 5 old men. I heard that you are looking for me. The 5 high-ranking engineers had the same astonished expression on their faces, much like the quintuplets. After a full 10 seconds of silence, they roared at the same time, when did you come? A few minutes later. Yilin used the simplest sentences to summarize this thrilling travel experience. I discovered a terrifying monster deep in the abandoned crystal mine. Its name is 6 Evil Generals Source Devouring Insect Nest. After saying that, Yilin fell silent with a sad expression. Wait a minute, the origin-eating insect nest, isn't it? Yes, it must be. Impossible. How could the legendary appear on Aurora? Even the prophecy has appeared, what else is impossible? The 5 old men gathered together again and whispered, leaving Yilin aside. When they were discussing, it seemed to have a mysterious quality, and none of the key information could be heard. Yilin stayed aside calmly, waiting with peace of mind for the results of their discussion. After a while, Adeng, with a solemn expression, led Yilin out of the highest conference room of the great engineer tower. I never thought that you could escape from it. Yeah, I couldn't think of it either. Adeng lowered his head again, his expression gradually becoming serious. If it is the monster recorded in history, everything will be explained. No wonder the mines are inexplicably depleted of crystals and so many monsters are born. Yeah. It's hard for you. Yes, this task is too difficult. My dear mentor, is there something you haven't had time to teach me? If you want to teach me, hurry up. Yilin stood behind Adeng with a kind expression, slowed down and asked. The great engineer Adeng's expression stiffened and he stopped walking. Yilin casually took out an ordinary one-handed stick, drew a mysterious circle in the void, and said with a smile. For example, how to use 7 main cores to build a supercomposite circuit, and after it is activated, it can generate a protective shield covering the port of Izada. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 393. Half an hour later. In classrooms. Dear tutor, I want to learn magic. Nonsense, this is science, you must believe in science. You must respect knowledge. Adeng carefully corrected Yilin's statement. Actually, similar to the defensive circuit of Port Izada, the design of the entire city was the work of the great engineering school. But in order to stabilize the theocratic power, the Holy See hid all this and declared it to be divine grace. Yilin had already come to this conclusion after personally trying to construct a super-large composite circuit and figuring out the structural secrets in Izada port. When Adeng heard this, He fell silent for a moment. After a while, Adeng was attentive and coughed twice. It's not important. He. But, my dear student, you guessed right. Adeng smiled slightly, and he drew a simple secondary heating loop with a flask filled with water on it. Use nodes and patterns to unleash the power of crystals in various ways. This is the circuit. But if we really want to perfectly connect loop to loop and act on more carriers, we can't do it with a simple loop. As Adeng spoke, he took out a crooked old wooden stick. The top of the wooden staff is inlaid with a goose egg-sized crystal, which is crystal clear, radiant, and invisible. He gently touched the crystal at the end of the wooden staff to the palm of his hand. Peng! In the blink of an eye, a small flame suddenly lit up in Adeng's palm, making Adeng's wrinkled face turn red. What really connects the complex circuit together and makes it work is the spell. With a wave of Aiden's wooden stick, the flames disappeared out of thin air. The ultimate in crystal pattern science is the crystal pattern technique. Crystal pattern technique. Yilin subconsciously picked at the dead skin on her forehead. The feel was so good that Yilin fell into deep thought. We are scholars who explore the mysteries of the world. We are engineers obsessed with creation. We are also crystal pattern warlocks who utilize the power of crystals to the extreme. Adeng's voice came strangely from behind Yilin. When Yilin heard the direction from which the sound came, she frowned, and was startled. She turned her head and looked behind her. At some point, another Adeng appeared behind him. Then looked back at the podium. Adeng on the podium had a joking expression and hidden meaning in his eyes. After finishing his pretentious lines, he stared at Yilin and smiled without saying a word. Clone. Yilin murmured in a low voice. He closed his eyes and spread his perception. After closing her eyes and entering that mysterious and unspeakable state, Yilin discovered that Adeng on the podium seemed not to exist, with no breathing or heartbeat. On the contrary, it was Adeng who appeared behind him who was the real existence. Seeing that Yilin was really shocked, Adeng couldn't hide his pride and waved his hand to disperse Adeng from the podium. This is projection, just a trivial trick. Adeng stepped forward from behind Yilin again. At this time, the water in the flask placed on the secondary heating circuit on the table bubbled and began to boil. Adeng casually used the wooden stick to point outside the boiling flask. Crystal light flashed. The water that was about to boil suddenly stopped. Ka-ka-ka-dash. The flask cracked, and white mist poured out of it. Is it freezing? Yilin picked at the dead skin harder. This is the freezing technique, not worth mentioning. Adeng exerted his strength again. The water in the flask flows again. Stick again. The cracks on the surface of the flask were repaired as before in the blink of an eye. This is restoration, so. Adeng used the flask to demonstrate many of what he called little tricks. Yilin was itching to see it. You show off, but you teach. Just as Yilin guessed, what Adeng taught Yilin before was only the basics of basics. This kind of spell that ignores the most basic rules of the circuit and the time it takes for the circuit to take effect is the high-end gameplay in crystal texture. After Adeng showed off Yilin's face, he sighed. I didn't expect that the crisis of crystal depletion in the mine was actually caused by the legendary monster. If I don't teach you the real spell, even if you are the prophesied brave, you probably won't be able to defeat that monster. This task is still too difficult for you. Yilin looked helpless. Is this magic? Nonsense, you have to believe in science. As soon as Adeng finished speaking, his expression changed slightly, and then he quickly drew a circle in front of him with his wooden stick. Wherever the end of the wooden stick passed, light flowed, and a door of light appeared in front of Adeng. Behind the light door, it seems that the space has been separated, and there is another completely different scene. Just wait a moment. I'll be back as soon as I go. The end. Adeng emphasized again, remember, you must believe in science. After saying that, Deng stepped through the light door and disappeared in front of Yilin in the blink of an eye. Yilin was stunned. Are you telling me this is science? Wait a moment. Wasn't the old man using the legendary teleportation just now? Isn't the dean's wife very defensive? Dean, danger. Deng left and came back in a hurry. His expression was quite serious. Yilin had no intention of following him and was thinking about it alone in the small classroom. After Deng came back, he didn't mention the reason for his short departure. He carefully explained the principles of spell to Yilin. Before the spell is activated, there must be a carrier. Deng pointed to his wooden staff and said with a smile, every great engineer's tool is carved out by himself with countless circuits. Circuits with different functions are connected in various ways, and the final result is technique. In other words, your staff, the engineer's staff is actually just fragments of various circuits. When you want to use it, you can pick out useful fragments and combine them to form a spell. Absolutely. Deng expressed his amazement at Yilin's understanding. After staying for a while, he continued, there is another way to use it. The circuit fragment in the engineer's staff acts as an internal type. And the inherent foreign combination produces different effects. It's like this. Deng used the secondary heating circuit on the desktop as an example. I saw him tapping the secondary heating circuit with a wooden stick. The circuit segment in the wooden stick and the secondary heating circuit formed a closed circle, and the crystal energy flowed. In the blink of an eye, the water in the flask evaporated rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, and not a drop remained. Actually, it doesn't matter if you don't understand now. After all, this is not just a matter of time. I probably understand. Before Deng could finish speaking, Yilin nodded, suddenly enlightened. I have one more question. Oh? Why the hell do you still have questions? Deng's eyes widened, expressing disbelief. I'm just curious. Yilin looked at her hands and pondered, can a circuit be engraved on the surface of the body, and the human body be used as the carrier of the circuit to trigger various spells? Damn it! Deng's eyes widened even more, seeming to be shocked by Yilin's whims. Yilin had no intention of paying attention to Deng's surprise. He had bold ideas popping up in his mind. He kept thinking about the feasibility of this idea and talking to himself. Theoretically, I think it should be feasible. Just solve the nodes, circuits, and cores, and you can construct spells with various functions. For example, constructing defense spells, acceleration spells, and movement spells on the human body, weakness seeing technique. The only thing that needs to be solved is the problem of energy source. Stop! Deng shouted, interrupting Yilin's reverie. Yilin was stunned for a moment, then he raised his head and looked at Deng with a serious expression. The master and the disciple stared at each other with big eyes and small eyes. No one said anything, they just stared at each other. A long time. Deng waved his hand and drew a portal, taking Yilin to a strange place. Here is a room. There are beds, bookshelves, tables, and chairs inside. There is a book spread out on the table. Next to the books, there is a simple wooden photo frame. There is a smiling face of a middle-aged man in the photo frame. Yilin didn't understand why Deng brought him here. This room is full of furnishings and dusty. A rare look of sadness appeared on Aiden's wrinkled face. At this time, Yilin was vaguely aware of Deng's purpose in bringing him to this room. He was my last student, his name was Zikizuski. Died. How do you know? It's obvious. This photo was all taken in black and white. Deng only had to carve the word mourning on his face. It was really difficult for Yilin not to guess. After all, the IQ is there. Once upon a time, he was just like you. He proposed the idea of using the human body as a carrier of magic. He even wrote a book and wrote all his research theories in that book. What book? Real engineers should wear meat suits and engage in melee combat. Has a problem? No, tutor, please continue. Adeng didn't notice anything wrong with the name of this book at all. He still had that nostalgic look on his face. Thinking of the past, Adeng's eyes were filled with sadness. He did so in the end. He successfully constructed the spell on himself, and the spell worked. Then what? How did you die? Adeng was silent for a moment and turned his face. It exploded. Oh, how can human strength withstand the mighty power flowing from the crystal? Crystal is the embodiment of the power of the god Auranos. That is divine power. How can a mortal body dare to touch the power of God? Yulin frowned. Suddenly, Yulin remembered something. You just said, what is the name of that student? Zikizazki. Blow yourself up. Zikizazki. All right. Yulin accepted the setting instantly. It was not an unjust death. 10 days later, Adeng patted Yulin on the shoulder and expressed pleasure at Yulin's learning speed. My dear student, you can graduate. Ding. You successfully completed the Advanced Crystal Texture course and were recognized by the great engineer Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Deputy Engineer, promoted to Senior Engineer. The reputation of the College of Engineers has been upgraded to respected. After Adeng upgraded Yulin's title with his own hands, he said profoundly, now, after integrating the knowledge I taught you, you will have enough strength to complete your mission and solve the crystal mine depletion task. However, you must not force it, it is one of the 6 legendary monsters created by the evil god himself. Oh, I'm done. Adeng closed his eyes with a sad expression. If you encounter any danger, you must not force it. You can fully experience it and wait until you are stronger before going. I said, I'm done. Seeing that Adeng didn't respond, Yulin had no choice but to take out a certain prop. Damn it! Adeng opened his eyes and looked at the props in Yulin's hands, which were suddenly messy in the wind. Ah, this? When was it completed? How the hell didn't I know? Ding. Congratulations, you have completed an important side mission, the request of the great engineers. EXP add 200,000. Contract of 6 evils. Rarity SS. Effect proof of killing the 6 evil generals. Explanation: it seems to have no other effect. In Yulin's hand was a handful of black spikes. It doesn't look like it's a dagger. It also looks like a sharp corner. The whole body is pitch black, with blood-red texture on the surface, faintly evil. This is the prop Yulin obtained from the corpse after killing 6 evil generals and source devouring insect nest. It doesn't seem to be of any use. But when he took it out, it was enough to prove that he had killed the 6 evil generals with his own hands, and he was innocent. After Yulin showed the contract of the 6 evils in front of Adeng, the reminder that the task was completed came belatedly. Adeng was completely shocked. I don't know how long it took, but Aiden's sluggish brain finally started to work again. He smacked his lips, moistened his dry lips, and widened his eyes with an unexpected expression. You, didn't you say you escaped? Yulin carefully recalled the chaotic scene at that time. Each of the 5 great engineers said one sentence, giving Yulin no chance to defend himself. Where, you said this yourself. Why didn't you tell us you had solved the crystal depletion crisis? You didn't give me a chance. Yulin patted Adeng on the shoulder and comforted, it doesn't matter, isn't everyone happy? All your sisters. If you had already said that you had solved it, I would not have taught you any more, okay? This is the real secret that is not told. After solving this important side task, Yulin was completely free. Because there were many hostile forces from the Holy See in the Great Engineer College, Yulin did not wander around and stayed in the college with peace of mind. When she had time, Yulin sent a message to Emperor Wang Tian, allowing him to move freely and wander around in the wild for a while to avoid being discovered by the hostile NPCs of the Holy See. Although Wang Tiandi was speechless at this inexplicable development, he was clever and knew that the situation was not right, so he could only silently act like a wandering wild dog and go to the wild to practice levels alone. Wang Tiandi's health bar is very thick and his level is not low, so there should be no danger in just killing wild monsters. Plus, it's a real dog, so Yiren has nothing to worry about. After knowing how the spell was composed, Yilin spent more time in the library. As expected, vision determines knowledge. After Yilin's understanding of crystal pattern technique further deepened, the same book had a different taste in Yilin's eyes. From time to time, Yilin thought of the hero who blows himself up to death that Adeng lamented. Can the human body really not withstand the power of the crystal pattern technique? But if people can't do it, what about players? The player is no longer a human being, okay. In order to avoid Adeng's misunderstanding, Yilin stopped constructing dangerous spells at will in the academy. Every real engineer who can be called a graduated engineer must make a unique engineer's staff by himself. Every engineer's rod cannot be used by anyone but himself. Because of the structure and texture of the spell above, only the builder himself is most familiar with it. If others use it carelessly, it will explode in minutes. Yilin did not have the materials to make an engineer's staff for the time being, so she could only put the matter aside for the time being and talk about it later. Then, sunrise, sunset, have a meal, sleep, read a book, meditation techniques. Yilin's life is boring but fulfilling. Gradually, I don't know when Yilin started to stop worrying about players and tasks and became immersed in the world of science, unable to extricate herself. 1 month later. Great Engineer Tower. 48 floors. Yilin's exclusive dormitory. Oh, no, not there. Oh, damn, master, it's itchy there. Oh, it hurts. How could you treat an aloof gentleman like this? Oh. The two female spirits, Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi, floated curiously behind Yilin, spinning in circles. It feels so cruel. These days, master feels weird. He summoned the strange chariot and carved strange patterns on it with a knife. Forget it, the sound of the car also made Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi, two mother spirits as pure as little white flowers, blush and feel confused, not knowing what they were thinking of. In fact, they didn't think of anything, but Night Dyer's tone always made them feel something was wrong. But what was wrong, the two mother spirits couldn't tell for a while. Yilin held up a small blood-red carving knife and concentrated on carving patterns on the Night Dyer's armor plate. People can't bear it, the car should be fine, right? Yilin thought happily. The strange and melodious screams of the Night Dyer rang in her ears, and Yilin felt calm in her heart. As Yilin's understanding of crystal pattern technique deepened, she became more comfortable drawing patterns. It has to be said that the armor plate of the Night Dyer is extremely hard, and ordinary tools cannot really carve it into it. Yilin had to take out the good guy and was sweating profusely. Right now. The carving knife in Yilin's hand suddenly paused. He frowned slightly, waved his hand, and put Night Dyer, Nai Hongxiu, and Bai Xiaoi away. Huh? Why are the faces of the two mother spirits so red? When putting away the two mother spirits, Yilin noticed that there was something wrong with the expressions of the two mother spirits. But Yilin didn't think much about it. Knock knock knock. Shortly after Yilin put away the car and the mother spirit, there was a short knock on the door. Yilin already knew who the visitor was. But when he opened the door, he still pretended not to know and said in surprise, "Teacher, why are you here?" Aiden wore a pointed hat. As soon as the door opened a gap, he squeezed his head in, his brows squeezed into a chrysanthemum shape, and he looked around the room. Yilin's dormitory room was tidy and there was no one else. It's weird, I clearly heard a strange sound. Aiden muttered in a low voice. What did you say? No, maybe I heard it wrong. Oh, it doesn't matter. You are old too. I don't blame you. The furnishings in the room are very simple. There isn't even a second stool. Aden didn't care. He took out his wooden stick and put it in the empty space, and conjured a rocking stool out of thin air. He sat on it with squinting eyes, and then his buttocks shook slightly. Yulin saw Aden brazenly showing magic in front of her under the banner of science. The corners of her mouth twitched slightly and asked, by the way, don't tell me that you came here just to show off your magic in front of me. Bar. I've said it so many times, this is science. Aden narrowed his eyes and said something, then fell silent. Yulin also fell silent. The room fell into an awkward atmosphere. It's really awkward to be alone in a room with nothing to say. A full 5 minutes later, Yulin suddenly smiled, narrowed his eyes, and said, if you have something to say, just say it. Aden then opened his eyes and smiled. In this seemingly vulgar smile, Yulin read other meanings. I said you've been here for so long, eating and drinking, should you go? Yulin couldn't help laughing and scolding, so you've been struggling for a long time just thinking about how to drive me away? Are you ignoring the trouble between you and the dean's wife? Nonsense. Lady Catherine and I have a purely friendship relationship. Aden was angry. Is it okay to tell the dean? Well, let's say goodbye. Aiden's arrogance suddenly faltered. But having said that, Yulin changed her voice and said with a smile, even if you don't rush me, I've learned enough here, and it's time to leave. Real. Aiden's cloudy eyes lit up, and his brows lit up with joy. How about it being so obvious? Yulin's mouth twitched again. But before you leave, you have to leave some souvenirs, right? Ah. For example, give me a big engineer title or something like that. Ding. There was a ding in Yulin's ear. Aden held up the engineer's staff and held it slightly above Yulin's head. Your shamelessness has been recognized by the current great engineer Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Deputy engineer, promoted to honorary guest engineer. The reputation of the great engineer college has been upgraded to adored. Honorary guest engineer? You mean, in name? The kind where you just have a name and no responsibility? Ding. Just when Yulin expressed surprise at Aden's generosity, there was another ding in her ears. Congratulations. You have raised your deputy engineer to the top level. Tentatively. That counts? Yulin's expression was slightly startled, and she always felt that something was wrong with this prompt. But that's not important. Successfully transferred to the hidden profession Crystal Pattern Warlock. What an ordinary hidden profession. But it's not over yet. It is detected that the player has dual professions, triggering the conditions for professional fusion. The profession Assassin and the profession Crystal Warlock can be merged into the special profession Shadow Warlock. Can they be merged? Yes/no? Yulin took a deep breath. Yes. After a while. Have you had enough? My dear student, why are you in such a daze? Aden was a little angry when he saw Yulin's dull expression. Yulin came back from the unexpected surprise and felt excited. But he still tried hard not to laugh so exaggeratedly, and nodded quickly, that's enough. Then get out of here, Aden said with a smile. So urgent? When? Tonight at the latest. Aren't you going to hold a grand farewell ceremony or something? Haha, we will see you off personally. Before Aden left, Yulin remembered something. By the way, my respected mentor, I have a random question. Where are the crystals in our academy usually stored? Aden glanced at Yulin with a strange expression. Why do you ask this question when you have nothing to do? It's nothing, I'm just worried. If such a precious crystal is placed in the wrong place, and if bad people take notice of it, How dangerous it would be. As a senior, no, honorary guest engineer, I would like to pay attention. Isn't it normal for your own property to be safe? When Yulin said this, she was afraid that Adeng wouldn't believe it, so she quickly switched to the title Friendly Assassin, with a kind smile on her face. At night, Yulin finished packing her luggage. Before the appointed time, Adeng stood guard in front of Yulin's room for half an hour in advance, feeling uneasy. He was afraid that Yulin would suddenly change his mind and refuse to leave. Fortunately, Yulin did not break her promise. Adeng secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Where do you want to go? Let me think about it. The giant fire beast, Boros, okay. No problem. Adeng agreed wholeheartedly. Yulin followed Adeng in the elevator all the way to the top floor. Wang Tiandi swung his tail and followed Yulin. Before leaving, Yulin almost forgot Guzi in the wild. Fortunately, Yulin still had conscience and called Guzi back in time. What Yulin didn't expect was that when he reached the top floor, Adeng shook the wooden stick, and the elevator clicked again and went up to another level. When she stepped out of the elevator, Yulin found herself standing at the top of the great engineer tower. Above the head, there is a pure moon and a cloudless night. The breeze comes slowly, bringing a bit of coolness. Except for Adeng, the other four great engineers were already waiting at the top of the tower. Seeing Yulin coming here, complex expressions appeared on their faces at the same time. Quick! Adeng urged. At the top of the tower, there is a huge spell, with crystals firmly embedded in every node. Teleportation spell. Yulin looked surprised. He quickly recognized the function of this large-scale technique. Yulin walked to the center of the teleportation formation, and Adeng stood in his own place. 5 great engineers stand on the 5 corners of the 5-pointed star. The crystal light shines softly. A beam of light soared into the sky, tearing the night sky apart. Yulin was bathed in the crystal light and looked at the great engineering college. The bright neon lights shine like a 7-color crown. Even Yulin himself didn't realize that during this period of his college career, he regarded this place as his home in the game world. Call. Yulin suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the 5 old men with a smile. Goodbye, May. Goodbye, Ash. Goodbye, Forest. Goodbye, Aru. Big question marks popped up on the heads of the 4 old men, Great Engineer Merlin, Severus, Rubius, and Gandalf at the same time. The end. Yulin looked at Adeng in front of her, smiled slightly, took off her tall wizard hat, placed it on her chest, bowed slowly, and performed a standard engineer etiquette. Goodbye, my mentor, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Adeng lowered his head and remained silent. Yulin closed his eyes, still being torn apart by the light of the crystal. After a moment, as the crystal light dissipated, the figure of a man and a dog disappeared on the top of the great engineer tower. It wasn't until Yulin and Wang Tiandi completely disappeared in the light of the spell that Adeng lowered his head and murmured to himself. Goodbye, my student. Oh, don't come back. No one noticed that when he lowered his head, Adeng squeezed his eyes hard to squeeze out the moisture from the corners of his eyes, pretending that the wind was too noisy and blurred the old man's eyes. At the top of the great engineer tower, the 5 old men fell silent again. For a long time, Gandalf, the dean of the College of Engineers, slowly pulled out a simple long sword from his robe. The sword was engraved with dense patterns. This is actually his engineer's staff, a sword. Gandalf laughed loudly. It's time to welcome our distinguished guest. Welcome the young Pope, His Excellency Emperor Georgi Anthony. That kid seemed to have stolen our crystal library before he left. That nasty little bastard. Yeah, you damn little bastard. The last day. If you can vote, vote monthly. Thanks. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 394. The Giant Fire Beast, Boros. Hills of Ashes. In the wilderness, bright firelights floated, silently, like ghosts. A ray of light fell from the sky like a shooting star. Boom. The light fell on the dry ground and made a semicircular pit. The light dissipated, and the figure of a man and a dog was reorganized in the depth of the light. In the pit, Yilin stood up quickly and looked around cautiously. After a while, confirm that the environment is safe. Wang Tiandi lowered his head deeply, bent his back, clamped his tail, and stood up slowly. He posed as if the Terminator was coming. Yilin was speechless and kicked Goza. In an instant, Goza stopped pretending and wagged his tail at Yilin, showing a dog-licking smile. Are you hungry? It seems like you haven't had a good meal in a while. Wait a minute. Yilin immediately understood the meaning of Wang Tiandi's dog-licking smile and comforted him. Overhead is the night sky. But what is different from other places is that the sky is covered with a layer of dust, blocking out the sun and making it difficult to see the distance. The hot air, mixed with the pungent smell of sulfur, hit your face. Yilin took a slow breath, and with the movement of breathing, it seemed as if even her lungs were being burned, and there were waves of burning pain in her chest. This is the giant fire beast, Boros. The ground beneath my feet is black and hard. The ground was covered with fine cracks and felt dry and hard underfoot. It was obvious at a glance that there was a lack of moisture in the soil. Looking up and looking into the distance, as far as the eye can see, there is no trace of vegetation on the surface, it is all gray dry soil. This environment is a bit harsh. Sure enough, there are different customs on the backs of different giant beasts. At the very least, the area Yilin arrived at was completely different from the scenery on the backs of Gaia Titan and Aurora Titan. Sneeze. Dog's sense of smell is extremely sensitive. In this environment, they feel even more uncomfortable and sneeze one after another. Wang Tiandi sneezed several times, and when he touched his nose, his eyes widened in fear. There was a layer of black ash in the nose, which was very scary. The air quality is outrageous. Wang Tiandi was speechless and quickly covered the dog's nose to reduce the concentration of inhaled dust. Look to see if anyone is around. Yilin lowered his head and said to Wang Tiandi, who was covering his nose. Wang Tiandi nodded. This was obviously not a good place for a picnic. The considerate dog had no complaints. Yilin summoned the two mother spirits by the way. After Nai Hongxiu and Bai Xiaoi appeared, they also frowned and complained that Yilin summoned them in such a place. Master, don't you understand that this kind of place can hurt your skin? The bond value of the divine sword Bai Xiaoi is -1. Nai Hongxiu was more direct. His eyes turned cold, his mouth tightened, and he disappeared in a swish. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hongxiu is -5. Damn it! Can it still be like this? This kind of skin injury can actually cause the mother spirit's bond value to plummet. How about making the mere mother spirit so realistic? Yilin quickly put Bai Xiaoi away before she could shrink back. Lest you finally reach the friendly level of bonding, only to have it lowered back for such an outrageous reason. After walking a certain distance, several wisps of eerie fire flickered, approaching Yilin and Wang Tiandi. Wisp Lantern. LV55. After seeing the level of the monster clearly, Wang Tiandi quickly took out his fighting claw, as if facing a formidable enemy. But suddenly. Bo. -2333. -2111. Two large numbers popped up on the monster's forehead at the same time. Wang Tiandi froze on the spot before he could make a start. Yilin walked out silently and said softly, "Children with no experience, let's fight quickly. I won't waste time." When Emperor Wang Tian heard this, his canine teeth immediately crossed and the corners of his eyes twitched. No experience. It silently looked at the level up to LV54 on its panel. You obviously have a lot of experience, you bastard. What nonsense are you talking about? Wang Tiandi instantly jumped forward and hugged Yi Lin's thick legs, his smile gradually becoming more and more unrestrained. At the same time, a ray of golden light fell on Li Erpang's round torso. Li Erpang suddenly became energetic and his head froze. I saw that he had put on a brand new set of armor. The armor is decorated with shells in scattered patterns, which are gaudy and practical. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer stood next to Li Erpang, also bathed in the upgraded golden light, with cheerful and happy expressions. I'm finally level 58. I'm so awesome. Li Erpang raised his heavy shield. Behind his butt, a translucent chain was connected to a tall figure not far away. Divine Sword Susu, looking at Li Erpang's majestic back, couldn't help but smile at Li Erpang. Erpang, you are so awesome. When Li Erpang heard this voice, he was immediately frightened. Like the sluggishness after an orgasm, he wilted and replied weakly, well, just average, only third in the world, brother Su, ah no, sister Su. For a whole month, he couldn't adapt. He couldn't adapt to the fact that his divine sword turned out to be such a devilish character. Every time he heard this sound, Li Erpang couldn't help but shiver. It was as if this voice aroused some kind of fear from the depths of his soul, the kind that could never be erased for the rest of his life. Suddenly, the nightmare-like voice of blacksmith Ge Lang flashed through Li Erpang's mind. You can't change it in a lifetime. You can't change it in a lifetime. You can't change it in a lifetime. Your mentality is broken. Li Erpang grabbed his hair hard, his expression collapsed. Speaking of which, not long after they met the Mermaid Queen, blacksmith Ge Lang suddenly left the Mermaid Kingdom without even saying hello, and simply regarded Li Erpang and the others as nothing. He was so angry that he shouted, I want to complain, I want to complain. If Ning Yu hadn't stopped him, Li Erpang would have directly picked up the big shield and hit him with the Renwang shield. Two fat brothers. Two fat brothers. Two fat brothers. Ning Yu stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Li Erpang. Why is the protagonist's leg hair suddenly twisting and turning? Do you have hemorrhoids? Speaking of the protagonist. Ning Yu sighed. It's been a month. I wonder if the protagonist is safe now? What makes Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer feel strange is that except for Li Chang'e, they have never seen the fourth apostle. Not to mention fifth place. Maybe the game world is too big and I didn't have time to encounter it. After the three of them killed the mini-boss spiked fish demon in the Poseidon Wild map, their huge experience points finally allowed them to rise to level 58, and they were about to break through the level 60 mark and enter the next level. Xiao Chuer's silky long hair danced in the water. This game is so realistic that as time goes by, the character's appearance will actually change, and his hair will grow a lot. During this period of time together, several people have become familiar with each other and have a deeper understanding of each other. When Xiao Chuer saw Li Erpang's expression, she couldn't help but smile. She roughly guessed Li Erpang's entanglement at the moment, and without trying to point it out, she casually pulled her hair behind her ears, spitting out bubbles from her mouth, and said, "This we have almost cleared the map tasks, it's time to leave." Yes, our level has generally exceeded the level of the monsters in the Poseidon Titan. It's time to defeat the 6 bosses mentioned by the Mermaid Queen. It's 5, Xiao Chuer corrected with a slight smile. A month ago, when the three of them learned that one of the legendary boss died like a lamp, they immediately thought of the protagonist Yi Lin. Except for the protagonist, no one else will be so active in promoting the plot to kill the boss. Of course, it is also possible that there are other apostles who have never met, or Li Chang'e who is secretly stirring up trouble. The Poseidon Titan is a giant beast that constantly sneaks under the sea of clouds. It can be called the submarine among the Titan beasts. The mermaid kingdom is located in the belly of Poseidon, isolated from the world. It is precisely because of this isolated setting that the six boss were not placed on Poseidon. Ningyu smiled slightly. If I am not wrong in my guess, the six evil generals on Aurora have been solved in some way by someone, probably the Yilin brothers. Now he has also learned from others. The channel is preparing to kill the remaining six evil generals. We've almost leveled up, we can't fall too far behind. Xiao Chuer chuckled in a low voice, evaluation, haha. Only Ningyu could hear this last sentence clearly, and he smiled and said nothing. Li Erpang touched the boss's corpse, glanced at Shenji Unsusu who was smiling quietly at the side, lowered his head, and said casually, that kid must be cheating, we are separated at that time, it was only about level 30, right? More than 30, right? No matter how much you level up, you will only be level 40 when you reach the top, right? At level 40, the main line boss was wiped out. Hey, I will backhand after I go out. A report. Don't let any of you stop me. Report. Upon hearing what Li Erpang said, Xiao Chuer and Ningyu had strange expressions and hesitated to speak. As the fate-ridden protagonist in the trial, isn't it normal for him to fail? Not to mention Li Erpang, even Xiao Chuer and Ningyu want to report it. This way of cheating is simply outrageous. It is not difficult to imagine that with Yilin's level at that time, if he leapfrogged and killed six evil generals, he would get a huge experience package. Ning Right waved his hand, suppressing his jealousy for the time being, and said, the report, we'll talk about it later. It's good that he's not dead, but because we're not in the same service area, we can't contact Brother Yilin, and we don't know. Which titan is he on now? Poros. Suddenly, Shenji Unsusu, who had been silently looking at Li Erpang's round ass, said softly. It seems that they are afraid that a few people may not hear clearly. In the brief silence, Divine Sword Susu repeated, Poros. Ningyu suddenly frowned. In fact, he didn't have any objections to Li Erpang's Divine Sword and this devilish character. After all, he is not the one bound. Excalibur Susu is in the team, but he can't deal damage. He has always been a little transparent, and is terrifyingly quiet. This occasional important sound made Ningyu pay attention again. Sister Su, how do you know? Divine Sword Susu closed his eyes. After a moment, Excalibur Susu opened his eyes again, with a flash of light in his eyes, and said with a slight smile, your companion also has the Excalibur in his hand, and there is a special connection between the Excalibur and the Excalibur. As long as I met you once, and I can roughly sense the presence of one of your companions. That's so. The three of them suddenly realized. It turns out that Excalibur also has the function of long-distance sensing. Awesome. It should be said that this is indeed a game. Wait a minute. Li Erpang listened and realized something was wrong. That boy, when did he get the Excalibur? Brother Su, Sister Su said that I met him once. In other words, before we were separated, he already had the Excalibur. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were also stunned. This is indeed wrong. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Xueshi. Chapter 395. The Brave Man's Companion. Queen Seren was sitting on the throne, her gorgeous fins swaying slightly in the water, and circles of ripples rippled in front of Li Erpang and the others. Li Erpang wiped his saliva subconsciously. So beautiful. Seren didn't seem to notice Li Erpang's expression. She closed her eyes. After a moment of silence, she smiled at the three of them, it's time to say goodbye. On the sea of clouds, the hidden darkness is stirring silently. But your existence proves that the god, our Anos, has not abandoned this world. Your presence made me believe this. Seren opened her eyes and recited the lines with full emotion. Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang remained silent. Wait quietly. Waited for a while. Saren suddenly raised the gorgeous harpoon and pointed it at the three people. In an instant, a transparent spherical film appeared out of thin air, wrapping the three people inside. The film appeared very quickly, and the three of them were wrapped in the ball before they could even react. Boom, boom, boom. Li Erpang knocked on the inside of the film a few times and found that this film, which seemed to be broken by a poke, was actually as solid as a rock. Under this knock, except for a few circles of light, there was no sign of breakage at all. This membrane is so hard, it can't be broken. Li Erpang was stunned and said something that seemed to be wrong. Xiao Chua rolled her eyes. Ning Yu stayed here for a month, but he was not surprised by the black technology existing in the game world. Instead he wondered. That's it? Leaving now? Why don't you give me a gift bag or something before leaving? The protagonist's leg hair finally obtained a magic sword before leaving the Kingdom of Two Lions. This mermaid kingdom seems too barren, right? Even if the artifact is not available, there is always a big gift package, right? There is no big gift package, but 1 or 2 simple tasks with rich rewards and content are acceptable, right? Ning Yu and Xiao Chua had an idea, but didn't dare to ask. Unexpectedly, Li Erpang quickly rubbed his thumb and index finger and asked what his teammates wanted to ask. Wait a minute, Queen Saren, our relationship is quite deep. Before leaving, why didn't you order any gifts? The outside world is very dangerous. If we can't save the world, you petite and pitiful mermaids, isn't it very dangerous? Ning Yu and Xiao Chua looked at each other and silently gave classmate Li Erpang a big thumbs up. It turns out that at critical moments, it is so convenient to have a teammate who speaks without thinking. It doesn't matter, Mermaid Queen Saren smiled sweetly, and her soft voice seemed to have the power to soothe people's hearts. You can't save me, there is still a brave man here. Ning Yu, Xiao Chua, and Li Erpang. The three brave friends lost the ability to answer questions in an instant. Mermaid Queen Saren saw that the three brave companions were very satisfied with her answer, so she said no more. The harpoon was raised, and the thin film light ball surrounding the three people floated upward with the waves at a certain constant speed. Remember, no matter what dangers you are about to face next, do not look back. Mermaid Queen Saren stood up from the throne, bowed to the three people who were walking away, and placed her right hand on her plump chest, pressing it into a deep pit. Saren closed her eyes, and there seemed to be a hint of sadness hidden in her tone. Our Ranos is above, may God bless you and break the darkness. Reality is shattered and illusion remains forever. Wish you good luck in martial arts. Neither Li Erpang nor the other three paid much attention to Mermaid Queen Saren's last words. In a thin film photosphere, Ning Yu finally recovered from Syrian's critical attack. He couldn't focus at the end of his eyes, his expression was sad, and he murmured, after I go out, if I have a chance, I will also complain. Xiao Chua sighed, take me with you. Gradually, the gorgeous palace became smaller and smaller under the feet of the three people. The surrounding light gradually became dim. As the film light ball rose, the mermaid kingdom quickly shrunk, shrinking into a city the size of a palm, and finally turned into a small dot on the map that could not be distinguished with the naked eye. After the three companions of the brave left. In the empty palace, Saren's expression relaxed and she slumped down on the throne again. A colorful little fish swam quickly from the entrance of the palace and whispered in Saren's ear. Her Royal Highness the Queen, the Holy See has sent an ultimatum, saying that if the three humans on the wanted order are not handed over, they will drive Iolos to declare war on Poseidon. Saren slowly closed her eyes. A long time. Fight. Saren's unwavering voice echoed in the hall. That fish has long disappeared. The thin film light ball floats, floats, floats. It has floated to the end of the ocean. Li Erpang and the other three raised their heads and were horrified to find that the tops of their heads were covered with openings and closing holes. Between the opening and closing of the holes, there was a terrible flow of air rushing out of the holes, followed by another wave. The water column is sucked out by the holes. The fast-flowing water formed a strong turbulence in front of the hole. The densely packed holes, looking in, are bottomless, the hollows are so deep, I don't know where they lead. Gudong. Li Erpang swallowed hard. Divine Sword Susu, with a calm expression, calm and aloof, leaned over and patted Li Erpang on the shoulder to express comfort. Xiao Chuer was shocked, what kind of hole is this? Ning's right double eyelids twitched crazily, should we leave from here? Li Erpang almost cried, wait a minute, isn't this the anus of the giant beast Poseidon? Xiao Chuer was angry, go away. When have you seen so many chrysanthemums, chrysanthemums, chrysanthemums? Ning Yu quickly calmed down and shook his head with a wry smile, it is true that there are no human beings, but there may be no giant beast gods. The three of them looked at each other. No dash. Bo poof. The thin film light ball carrying the three people was filled with screams. In the blink of an eye, it was swallowed hard by the deep and trembling holes and disappeared completely into the water. The giant fire beast, Boros. Beyond the ashes hills. The sky is filled with ashes. The air is filled with the everlasting smell of sulfur. In the distance of the blazing land, the scenery was distorted, as if it was split into several worlds of different dimensions. Countless flickering fires echoed deeply on the cracked earth, becoming a unique scenery on this land. Here is a mountain. A towering volcano. From time to time, the crater spews out dark gray mist, which swirls into thick fog clouds around the crater. In fact, if someone gets closer and observes carefully, they will find that what surrounds the crater is not clouds at all, but dust floating in the sky. The wind does not blow away and the ashes do not fall, which is why this unique climate is formed. At the foot of the mountain, buildings with unique styles are built against the mountain, forming a cluster similar to a village. Throughout the village of Volcano Point, dark smoke drifted out. Because there was no wind, the smoke pillars were like pillars falling from the sky, condensing straight and lingering for a long time. Swish swish. Ashes were floating quietly in the sky. It's like standing still in front of you, as if stretching out 5 fingers can solidify the ashes in the air. A traveler in a black robe, with the collar pulled up and covering his mouth and nose, leaving only his eyes exposed. I saw him walking lightly on the cracked land. Hutcha hutcha hucka. Next to the traveler, there was a fluffy dog, covered with a thick layer of gray. It changed from a white dog to a native dog, looking very embarrassed. The hot and dry climate makes dogs constantly stick out their tongues and gasp for breath, exuding restless energy in their bodies in this unique way. Sure enough, wherever there is smoke, there are people. This game can't be so outrageous that there are monsters having a barbecue in the wild, right? Yulin raised his head and looked at the human gathering place not far away. He whispered softly and walked up quickly. At the intersection, there was a dusty road sign. Yulin stepped forward and wiped away the dust on the street sign with her hands. The unique font of the game world appeared in front of Yulin. Land of Fire. Oh. Woof. A man and a dog looked up at the entrance of the village and exclaimed. Stop. Who are you? Right now. From inside the village gate of Fire Source, 2 figures appeared in a flash and stopped in front of them. Huang Qinchin's name appeared above their heads. Neutral, yellow name. Hometown of Fire Han Mai. LV50. Hometown of Fire Lilei. LV50. Lilei. Han Mai. These 2 names gave Yulin a strange feeling. It was obviously a serious name, but Yulin always felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't explain it for the moment. Weird thoughts flashed through me. Yulin didn't pay too much attention. Han Mai and Lilei, a man and a woman, held long spears and stopped in front of Yilin and Wang Tiandi. It seemed that if they disagreed, they would enter the turn system and start the battle directly without hesitation. What made Yilin pay more attention was that both of them wore dark, avant-garde masks on their faces. The voices of the two came out from the filter holes reserved in the mask. They sounded a bit muffled, but they could still barely distinguish the voices of a man and a woman. Ahem, we are adventurers from afar. The opponent's level was several orders of magnitude lower than Yilin's. Yilin was not afraid. But he really didn't want to fight against the hostile NPC forces anymore. Besides, his current target is no longer a mere NPC. If you kill NPCs, how can you kill the 6 evils and get good fortune in the future? Not only can it trigger the main plot, but it also has a lot of experience. How can a mere NPC compare with it? No need. No need. Woof. Dog-shaped monster. Short for, dog. When Han Mai and Lilei heard Wang Tiandi's cry, they trembled, as if they were faced with a powerful enemy, and thrust their spears forward, pointing at Yilin. Are you the devil pretending to be a brave? Yilin. Emperor Wang Tian. Seeing that Yilin stopped talking and the dog stopped barking and was dumbfounded, Han Mai and Lilei became more sure, their voices cold. Definitely is. Miko-sama said that the dog hero should never be allowed to approach the land of fire. Once the whereabouts of the dog hero are discovered, kill him first and ask questions later. Puff. Yilin almost spat out a mouthful of ash from her tightly covered mouth and nose. Who is the dog brave? Can't you just talk nicely? It's the brave man and the dog. Wang Tiandi's expression was calm. No matter what angle he stood at, dog brave was not a derogatory term for him. The dog silently put his paws into his arms. Prepare to take out the polished fighting claws from the props and attack with the whole army. Yilin raised his eyebrows and stepped on Wang Tiandi's waist. Woof. While stepping on Wang Tiandi's male dog's waist, he told the dog not to move. Yilin quickly switched the title to honorary guest engineer and smiled kindly. It turns out to be the brave, a felon wanted by the Holy See. I am an honorary guest engineer from the University of Engineering. I am a big engineer. There are only 6 models in the world. If you get a fake one, you will lose 10%. He's not a brave dog, don't get me wrong. Emperor Wang Tian was dumbfounded. How the hell can this be done? Lilei and Han Mai seemed to feel the certification from the title, and quickly put away their spears. It turns out to be the distinguished great engineer. Welcome to the land of fire. Call. Yilin breathed a sigh of relief. Because the moment they put away their spears, the names above the two people's heads turned green. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 396. Ah, it's comfortable. Woof woof woof. One person and one dog soaked in the hot spring, moaning in pleasure at the same time. Yilin never expected that soaking in hot springs in the game would bring such enjoyment as if the soul had been sublimated. So comfortable. The Land of Fire was originally famous for its hot springs. It is located next to an active volcano and is rich in hot springs, so logically there is nothing wrong with it. The Land of Fire also has another easy-to-understand name. Hot Spring Township. The endless spring water flows into the pool along the channel. Emperor Wang Tian washed away the dirt all over his body and transformed from a local dog back to Emperor Wang Tian. After learning that Yilin was a serious big engineer, Lilei and Han Mai directly gave her VIP-level treatment and took Yilin and Wang Tiandi to stay in the top hot spring hotel in the village, with indoor hot springs and self-catering facilities. The kind with luxurious meals, couples suites, and jacuzzi. Although Yilin and Guzi are not lovers or have any other special relationship. But when enjoying this kind of comfort, Yilin didn't bother to worry about these details. After taking a good bath with Guzi, Yilin took off her dirty engineer robe, which had little durability left, and put on the complete set of equipment provided by the hot spring hotel. Fire source yukata. Fire source belt. Fire source clogs. Although this three-piece set is only equipment with the rarity of D, in addition to significantly changing the appearance, it can also slightly reduce the hotness. No, when Yilin and Guzi put on the three-piece yukata set, they instantly felt that the air around them was much fresher. That's right. The dog also put on a bathrobe. I don't know why, but when I see the dog standing up straight on its hind legs, with its paws on its waist pulling at the belt, it smiles wildly, looking like a scumbag, and there is no sense of disobedience. The dog's smile was 1/3 tired, 3/3 free and easy, 3/3 wanton, and yet there was a hint of unfinished intention. He looked exactly like a male dog who had just finished making a big sword. This village has a unique architectural style. The wooden floor creaks when you step on it, and the walls of the room are hung with calligraphy and paintings that are unique to the game world, and there is an ancient charm everywhere. The eaves outside the house are particularly wide, as if they are an umbrella, isolating the ashes falling from the sky. Yilin was wrapped in a bathrobe and looked out through the paper window. The falling volcanic ash was like black rain, adding a bit of desolate and dilapidated flavor to the village. But in Yilin's opinion, this taste has a different flavor. The hot spring steam inside the house was completely opposite to the dilapidated scenery outside. The inside and outside of the house were like two worlds, giving Yilin a strong sense of contrast. Yilin casually called out the two mother spirits. After not seeing each other for a long time, Nai Hungziu and Bai Xiao I discovered that there was a hot spring in the house. They jumped up, pulled up the curtain, and soaked in the hot spring. Yilin couldn't imagine how the mother spirit soaked in the hot springs. But as long as they are happy. Yilin looked at the rising bond value and was very satisfied. You guys take a dip first, I'll go out for a walk. On the wooden frame next to the door, there is a row of neatly folded paper umbrellas standing neatly. The paper umbrella is open with messy flame patterns painted on it, making it a great seller. On the side, gray masks are also provided for free. Gray mask is also a piece of equipment. Equipped in the accessories slot. The effect is simple, provides fresh, ash-free air. Yilin left the dog and the female spirit in the luxurious suite. He was alone, wearing wooden clogs, holding a paper umbrella, putting on an anti-ash mask, and walked slowly among the ashes. In the village, every passerby walking in the village held a paper umbrella and wore a mask, and it was impossible to tell who was who. Yilin was walking on the road, and other people didn't know whether Yilin was a passerby or a local, so Yilin easily blended into the village. The village is very quiet. Occasionally, pedestrians pass by in a hurry, but they don't chat or strike up conversations on the road. The villagers passed by Yilin quickly without even taking a second look at Yilin, the weirdo who wore a bathrobe to visit the village. Although the sparrow in the land of fire is small, it has all 5 internal organs. Prop shop, weapon shop, armor shop, blacksmith shop. Passing by the deserted shops, Yilin regained the feeling of I am still in the game. Yilin walked around the village, and within a moment she had memorized the structure of the village. To the north of the land of fire, there is a stone staircase spiraling up, with redwood beams and doorposts spaced about 3 meters apart and distributed in 10 steps. From a distance, the stone steps and redwood door beams look like a giant dragon entrenched in the village. A shrine with a solemn appearance and red wall paint stands quietly on the high slope at the end of the stone steps, like the head of a red dragon, faintly revealing its awe-inspiring and inviolable power. Yilin squinted her eyes and stared at the shrine bathed in ashes, thoughtfully. The entrance to the stone steps is guarded by guards similar to Han Maimei and Li Lei. Yilin has not triggered any tasks yet, and it is not easy to directly sneak into the shrine on the high slope. If something is triggered that shouldn't be triggered, wouldn't it be like shooting a stone in the foot? Dang. 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 Whirring. Yilin walked around the village and was about to return to the hot spring hotel. When passing by the blacksmith shop, the crisp sound of forging iron and the whirring sound of the bellows came from inside. Wait a minute, this rhythm of blacksmithing. Clang. Clang. Kang. Yilin's mouth twitched slightly. He didn't pay much attention when he passed by just now. But now I passed by it again, and the rhythmic sound and the sound of blacksmithing faintly in my memory overlapped together. When his divine sword was being reforged in Labu town, Yilin listened to the sound of forging outside the door for several hours. It can't be such a coincidence, right? Yilin pushed open the door and entered. It really is. In the dimly lit room, a shirtless figure was swinging a big hammer, hitting the red-hot embryo one by one, causing sparks to fly everywhere. The round beads of sweat dripping down from the blacksmith's body looked crystal clear against the backdrop of the sparks, reflecting a shimmering light. It's blacksmith Ge Lang. Why is he here? Yilin paused in her steps. He reacted quickly. He sneaked into this village with the title of honorary guest engineer. It seems that false rumors that brave men are bad guys are spreading wildly in the village. Blacksmith Ge Lang knew his identity clearly. In case you recognize it. Wrong. Yilin touched the gray mask on her face. The entire face was covered, not even a bit of skin was exposed, and it was really scary for him to recognize it. Yilin breathed a sigh of relief, and began to step back smoothly after pause, preparing to pretend that nothing happened, to come quietly, and to leave quietly, without taking away any dust. Although he still has a mission of the road to recovery of the unknown divine sword, at this time, he has not yet finished collecting the blood of the saint, so there is no need to reveal his identity so early. It is better to dodge first. It is you. Yilin didn't have time to get out of the way. Blacksmith Ge Lang's blacksmithing action suddenly stopped. In the firelight, he slowly turned his head, his face full of stories remained indifferent. The blacksmith shop door was closed. The room is hot and dry. But compared to the outside, it seems like nothing. Yilin sat opposite blacksmith Ge Lang, reluctantly took off her fireproof mask, and sighed softly, "How did you manage to recognize me even though I'm dressed like this?" "It does not matter. It seems that it is very difficult to extract large tracts of information from the taciturn blacksmith Ge Lang." Yilin thought for a moment, remembering the architectural style of the Land of Fire and the strange layout of more than one blacksmith shop. Yilin thought of a possibility. "This is your hometown?" "Yes." "Then what are you doing squatting in Rab town?" "Wait. What are you waiting for?" Blacksmith Ge Lang was silent for a moment, then shook his head. "You are so cool." Yilin firmly believed that this NPC with weird behavior must have a special mission. This is indeed the hometown of blacksmith Ge Lang. In addition to being famous for its hot springs, the Land of Fire seems to have a lot of blacksmith shops, and everyone is a good blacksmith. By the way, where are they? Yilin finally remembered his former teammates. In Poseidon. The giant water beast, Poseidon. Yilin lowered his head and pondered. The two navigation pointers given by Homeros were Boros and Aurora. Poros's navigation needle is on Nengyu. As for Poseidon, the giant water beast is actually hiding under the sea of clouds. After Yilin figured this out, she looked surprised. "Yes. I see." Yilin understood. No wonder both the little fat man and blacksmith Ge Lang were safe after jumping into the sea that day. It turned out that he happened to meet Poseidon, who was passing by. By the way, there's one more thing. Having been chased by an aerospace boat all the way, Yilin had been in such a hurry to escape that Yilin had forgotten about recasting the divine sword. Now that blacksmith Ge Lang has recognized her through her mask, Yilin can't go in vain. She needs to check the progress of the mission before talking about it. As promised before. The blood drop of the saint is one word different from the blood of the saint in the mission requirements. Yulin knows that it won't work, but there is always no harm in giving it a try. Seeing the drop of uncondensed blood in the vial in Yulin's hand, blacksmith Ge Lang's cloudy eyes lit up slightly, looking straight at the blood drop in the vial. After observing it with strange eyes for a moment, blacksmith Ge Lang shook his head again. It's not enough. Ding. Main mission, the road to recovery of the unknown divine sword, mission objectives updated. Current goal, collect the complete blood of the saint. Current progress, 1/4. Task difficulty, SSS. Task time limit, none. Task reward, unknown. Okay. In fact, if that naughty player hadn't gone crazy and disrupted the situation, his main mission should have been updated long ago. But if you think about it carefully, updating later and updating earlier will not have any impact on the completion of the task. In other words, there are a total of 4 drops of blood of the saint in the world, and they are probably closely related to the Holy See. While Yulin was thinking about this matter, blacksmith Ge Lang suddenly changed the subject. Are you here to find the 6 evil generals? Yulin raised her head in surprise and looked at blacksmith Ge Lang. It's a pity that the NPC blacksmith Ge Lang's character is too strong, his expression remains unchanged, and you can't see any strange emotions on his face. Yes, but how do you know? It's not important. Blacksmith Ge Lang didn't explain Yulin's confused plans at all. After a full 10 seconds of silence, he picked up the topic again. Go find the Myko shrine. Clear. Yulin nodded and turned around to leave. In the darkness, blacksmith Ge Lang whispered again, as if talking to himself. It's time to finish. At this time, Yulin still didn't understand the meaning of the sentence. In order to avoid people misunderstanding that he was a brave man, Yulin left Wang Tiandi in the hot spring hotel alone. After bidding farewell to blacksmith Galang, he came to the stone steps leading to the shrine. Stop. As expected, Yulin was stopped again. 2 spears were crossed in front of Yulin. Be polite first and then fight. Yulin sighed softly. If this was not the hometown of blacksmith Ge Lang, and if Yulin hadn't had the task of recasting the divine sword falling on blacksmith Ge Lang, Yulin would have slipped in a more direct way. How could he be stopped here? I still have to give out the thin noodles from blacksmith Ge Lang. If blacksmith Ge Lang gets angry and doesn't complete the task for him, there will be some trouble. Yulin has long discovered that NPCs in the game world are very moody. They will fall out at once and become famous in an instant. But if something happens, they can turn back to green in the blink of an eye and become friendly NPCs. During the Fire God Festival, Myko-sama didn't see anyone. The 2 guards who stopped Yulin were just LV-30 children, and they posed no threat at all in terms of force. Fire God Festival. Yulin suddenly smelled the mission. No wonder blacksmith Ge Lang asked him to find a witch. Yulin pretended to leave, but in a corner where no one was paying attention, he activated his skills and turned into a thin shadow, walking between the 2 guards again in a swagger. That's where he was going to get in when he was stopped. Moving quickly along the stone steps, Yulin quickly arrived at the Fire Origin Shrine. There are no guards around the shrine. It seems that this Myko thinks that the 2 guards at the door are enough to stop anyone. Yulin chuckled, and his perception was released. With him as the center, everything within a radius of 30 meters was presented in Yulin's perception in another way. There were only 2 people inside. An old woman, a young woman. Who is the Myko? In the shadow state, Yulin easily entered the shrine. In the shrine, incense is burning, which is rich but not pungent. Indoors, a young woman wearing a red and white ancient witch robe was kneeling in front of a ferocious fire dragon statue, sitting with her back to the door. From Yulin's perspective, the young woman's black hair was as smooth as satin, hanging down casually, reaching her waist, and her slender waist was tied up to outline a slender line. The old woman in Yulin's perception was sitting on a low chair in the corner of the shrine, her eyes closed and her head bowed, her breathing slow, as if she had fallen asleep. At the old woman's feet, there was a small carving knife with dried blood on it. Whose blood? This old woman is a guard. Yulin frowned, but had no answer and could only continue to observe. On the weapons rack in front of the fire dragon sculpture, there is a simple longbow with a quiver leaning against it. Bow. As an elite player, Yulin was already accustomed to searching for valuable treasures as soon as she entered the house. This simple bow caught Yulin's sight immediately. This seems to be a special weapon not sold in the store. Can it be sold? Is it valuable? It can't be Excalibur, right? After Yulin quickly asked herself 3 times, she couldn't get an answer for the time being, so she could only focus on that beautiful back again. Fire source MaleProtagonist. LV70. It's a green NPC. Right now. The Maiko Kikyo still had her back turned to Yulin. After bowing deeply to the ferocious fire dragon statue in front of her, she slowly stood up and walked towards the longbow on the weapon rack. And just after Kikyo made a move, Yulin suddenly discovered that the originally green name turned yellow in the blink of an eye. The name yellow means neutrality. Come out. When Yulin noticed that the name of fire source priestess Kikyo turned yellow, Kikyo had quickly put the longbow on her back, holding an arrow between her green-white fingers. Oh! It's actually unfolding like this. Yulin emerged from the shadow without any haste and walked out of the shadow slowly. After all, the opponent is only LV70. Yulin was a little surprised. He didn't expect that this Maiko could actually detect his presence when he activated shadow following and shadow killing at the same time. But when Yulin noticed that when he appeared, Kikyo's eyes changed focus slightly, she understood. It turns out that the other party is not really aware of his specific location, but is aware of someone. Who are you? Kikyo slowly stepped back with one foot, and held the longbow back with her right hand, assuming a posture ready to attack at any time. Yulin spread his hands, indicating that he had no weapons in his hands. At the same time, he showed the title honorary guest engineer and smiled kindly, "Don't be nervous, I am a grand engineer from the College of Engineers. I am honored by others, please, come and solve your troubles." Who? Judging from the facial features of Platycodon grandiflorum, none of them can be said to be stunning. But when combined with this fair face, it makes people look very comfortable. After Kikyo assumed a fighting stance, her expression showed no emotions such as anger, shock, or doubt. Instead, it was like a pool of clear water, quiet and peaceful, making it difficult for people to think of attacking her. Ge Lang. It's him. Revealing the name of Galan Blacksmith is indeed useful. When Platycodon heard this, the top of her head instantly turned green again. She breathed a sigh of relief and didn't seem to care about Yulin's uninvited visit. She put the arrow in her fingers back into the quiver. Kikyo shook her head, "But I'm not worried." Yulin was slightly startled. "Isn't that what blacksmith Ge Lang said? You go." Yulin was silent for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "Okay. Then, goodbye." This time, Yulin was really arrogant, pushing open the door of the shrine and leaving the place. Kikyo looked at Yulin's leaving figure, her expression calm, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Yuren went straight back to the hotel. It seems that there is something else hidden. Yulin suddenly remembered what blacksmith Ge Lang said. It's time to end. Now that I think about it, I feel that there is a deeper meaning in this sentence. Finish. End of what? Going back and asking blacksmith Ge Lang probably won't work. Although the contact time is not long, the NPC Kikyo gives people a very strange feeling. To take a step back, in the game settings, the mission cannot be triggered unless specific lines are spoken or specific props are displayed. But if the scene is not regarded as a game, Kikyo's reaction is very strange. It's like, she doesn't want anyone to accept the mission and solve the thing that blacksmith Ge Lang mentioned. Let's collect information first. Fire God Festival? Ha! Yilin has found the entry point. As for the shrine, you won't be able to sneak into it casually for a short period of time. Kikyo seems to have a perception ability similar to Yilin, and can detect him in a stealth state. Yilin always felt that his innate skills following the shadow and shadow killing were very useful together, but he was not naive enough to think that these two skills would be 100% unimpeded. In the Kingdom of Two Lions, didn't Hermelos also use the Sword Master Realm Selfless Realm skill to be able to detect him in the shadow state? In the game world, there are many things that cannot be measured by common sense. Skills complement and inhibit each other, and they also exist. Back at the hotel, the two mother spirits and Wang Tiandi were bored and waiting for Yilin to come back. Acridine Master, are you back? After Bai Xiaoi took a bath in the hot spring, her transparent little face was flushed and very cute. Nai Hongxiu's face was still cold, her red clothes and bare feet were floating in the corner, silent. It can be seen that when Yilin entered the room, she opened her eyes and nodded slightly to Yilin as a greeting. Maximize the bond value. It's just around the corner. Yilin nodded secretly. It was not difficult to see that the two mother spirits were becoming more and more friendly to him. It's not easy. Well, let's go for a walk. Yilin replied with a smile. After he put the paper umbrella and fire mask aside, he put on a clean bathrobe, sat on the couch, and fell into deep thought. Although the meeting with Kikyo just now was brief, Yilin noticed one detail. On the arrow held by Platycodon's fingers, circuit is clearly engraved. Yilin was too far away and couldn't see the structure of the circuit clearly, so he didn't know what function the technique was. But when I think about it, it's nothing more than a simple small technique like acceleration circuit. The structure of the bow and arrow is clear at a glance, and the places where the core can be embedded are limited, so it is absolutely impossible to construct some too powerful spells. I have always fallen into a misunderstanding. The engineer's staff may not really be a staff. Any weapon can actually be regarded as an engineer's staff. It may be a dagger, a long sword, or a shield. It is not impossible for a real engineer to hold up his sword and shield and rush forward to fight. After Yilin figured this out, he took out the question mark divine sword and took a look at it, then shook his head. This divine sword is too malleable, which is not conducive to constructing spells. Just like the spell I constructed on the surface of Night Dire, we must find stronger and more stable materials. While Yilin was talking to himself, his eyes swept over the dog who was shaking his head and wagging his tail not far away. Wang Tiandi's eyes suddenly widened, his tail stiffened and stiffened. Goza was puzzled. I don't know why, but just now it suddenly had the illusion that a disaster was imminent. Forget it, it's too dangerous. Yilin looked calm and looked away from Wang Tiandi, temporarily giving up on a bold idea. After a while, Yilin took out a silver revolver from the props. Yilin settled down in the land of fire. During this period of time, after sneaking into the shrine, the Miko Kikyo made no other noise except sending someone to officially express her welcome, which made Yilin feel very strange. As Yilin's guides in the land of fire, Han Mai and Li Lei came to the hotel from time to chat with Yilin when they were off duty on patrol. Han Mai has a very down-to-earth appearance, and the fine freckles above her nose make her look like the girl next door. Li Lei is a typical energetic young man. When Han Mai pestered Yilin, he bit his lip from time to time, trying to get in, but couldn't. The anxious expression made Yilin secretly shake her head. This guy's secret love is written all over his face. Han Mai seemed to be yearning for the mysterious engineering college and would pester Yilin with questions about engineers from time to time. It's just like, I heard that engineers like to eat with their feet. Is it true? I heard that engineers are all bald. Why is your hair so thick? I heard that engineers generally don't live past 50. Is it true? I heard that many engineers are single. Are you the same? What a coincidence. I don't know who planned and designed these damn NPC lines. Although these questions made Yulin physically and mentally exhausted. But after getting to know each other, Yulin pretended not to care, and finally got some information about the Fire God Festival from the two of them. Bai is seriously asking for monthly votes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 397. In fact, this is an old story. 10 years ago. There is a mountain called Huashan Mountain. There is a village called the Land of Fire. The climate here is hot, but it is not a climate with dust all over the sky. On the contrary, it is a tourist attraction with lush vegetation and hot springs everywhere. But suddenly one day, a terrible monster came nearby. Dragon. The dragon is entrenched in the volcano. Its existence turns the extinct volcano into an active volcano. The temperature rises sharply and everything dies. Moreover, the dragon flew out of the volcano regularly to look for food, wreaking havoc everywhere, killing and injuring countless villagers in the Land of Fire. Gradually, as the climate became harsh and tourists were no longer willing to come, the Land of Fire began to decline and no one cared about it. After all, tourists come here just to travel, and no one wants to risk their lives. On Giant Beast Boros, far away from here, on the other side of the volcano, there is a powerful empire called the Kingdom of Amara. The Kingdom of Amara once sent an army to try to defeat this monster, but in the end it failed and the matter was settled. Anyway, the Fire God Mountain was far away from their country, so the Kingdom of Umla just pretended not to see it and turned a blind eye. In the end, I suffered a lot in the tourist village of Huiwen Township, which is built on the mountain. The Land of Fire is a village with ancient traditions. In addition to believing in the god Uranus, it also believes in Poros, revered as the god of fire. Each generation of village chief calls himself the Cage of the Land of Fire, or simply, the Hokage. The previous generation of Hokage, together with the previous generation of Miko, Kikyo's mother, decided to conquer the evil dragon entrenched in the Fire God Mountain. Also accompanying her was Kikyo's childhood sweetheart and childhood playmate, Yasha, who Hanmei said was extremely handsome and said, "I am the man destined to become Hokage every day." Before Hanmei finished speaking, Yulin had already guessed the ending of the story. Are they all dead? Hanmei and Lilei's eyes widened instantly. Master Engineer, you, how do you know? No need to guess. This kind of cliched story, where you can guess the ending from the beginning, has no surprises at all except to complete the worldview setting. In the sad context of Hanmei, if it were said suddenly, the previous generation of Hokage suddenly burst into a small universe, killed the dragon, and cut it into pieces and skewered it. This ending may also bring some surprises to Yulin. I think this is an excellent script full of twists and turns. Which dog planner wrote the script? Yulin complained secretly. Combined with his status as a hero, wouldn't it be Dragon Quest? After learning the background story of the Land of Fire, Yulin sat and waited for a while in front of Hanmei and Lilei, but the pleasant tinkling sound did not come as promised. Yulin did not receive the task as expected. This time he was a little surprised. Everything is so clear, but there is no mission prompt. Why? Does it mean that the hidden branch in the Land of Fire must be announced by Kikyo herself? Yulin thought about it for a while, then squinted and asked casually, "By the way, I'm a little curious. My lifelong best friend, Blacksmith Ge Lang, is the one who hides in a dark room all day long and works hard. You guys know him, right? My best friend, he mentioned something. Yulin sat up straight and glanced at the faces of Han Maimei and Lilei. He said that the Fire God Festival is about to begin. Han Maimei and Lilei looked at each other quickly. Maiko-sama said that the Fire God Festival cannot be mentioned to outsiders. After the two were silent for a moment, Lilei took a step forward and said. Yulin smiled, I'm not an outsider. Blacksmith Ge Lang is my good friend. We fought together in the past, faced thousands of armies together, climbed over walls together, and jumped over the sea together. If you don't believe it, you can just ask him, he's right next door anyway. After rarely telling the truth, Yulin changed her words and waved to the two of them, but since you treat me as an outsider, forget it, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter, I won't be angry or sad. Anyway, I just asked casually and didn't take it too seriously. Besides, I'm leaving in a few days. Han Maimei pursed her lips and her eyes flickered a few times. The dog pretended to be harmless, licking his face, wagging his tail, and purring. The room fell completely silent. The only sounds left were the breathing of the three people and the sound of the dog swishing its tail. After a moment of silence, Han Maimei raised her head, a complicated look flashed in her eyes, and said, since the death of the previous generation Hokage-sama and the previous generation Maiko-sama, Kikyo-sama has become very depressed. She became the Maiko of this generation 10 years ago. After taking over as a Maiko, Lord Kikyo once entered the Vulcan Mountain. Maimei. When Lilei heard that Han Maimei seemed to be telling the whole truth, he couldn't help but hold Han Maimei's arm to prevent her from telling the rest of the story. Are you going to watch your sister die with your own eyes? Maimei. Shut up. I'm doing this for the village. Does Li Nalai have to die for the sake of the village? Han Maimei asked back. Lilei's expression shrank instantly as if he had been shocked by electricity. Han Maimei ignored Lilei's dissuasion and said loudly, after that day, the witch personally entered the Vulcan Mountain and asked the Vulcan to appear and destroy the evil dragon. Ah! Yulin's expression was slightly startled. Ah, this? Isn't it? Yulin was a little confused. After hearing the beginning of this old-fashioned story, he guessed the ending, but he never guessed that Dragon Quest Season 2 would unfold like this. Dragon, dead. Han Maimei nodded vigorously. The witch's determination moved the Vulcan, and he personally destroyed the dragon. But after that day, the witch signed a contract with the Vulcan, and every year the witch must choose a bride. Personally sent to Vulcan Mountain, and served Lord Vulcan for the rest of his life, as the price for asking the gods to take action. This is the Fire God Festival. Yulin did not comment on the second part of the story. She looked at Lilei calmly and asked, this year's sacrifice, no, the bride, is it your sister? At first he wanted to stop Han Maimei, but then he broke the pot and fell silent. Lilei looked ugly and squeezed out a word through his teeth. Yes. Li Nalai. Yes. Lilei lowered his head again. Han Maimei added, Li Nalai is my best friend. Yulin pondered for a moment, half smiled, and then asked, did any of you see the dragon's body with your own eyes? Han Maimei shook her head, how is that possible? If the gods take action, Longding's body will be gone. When does the Fire God Festival start? At this time of year, grey rain will fall around the Vulcan Mountain. This is Lord Vulcan warning us that it is time to present the bride. The grey rain will last for a whole month, and the Maiko will choose a certain day. A grand ceremony is held in the village, the bride is bathed and dressed, and then sent to the Vulcan Mountain in person. I see. Yulin generally understood. Han Maimei and Lilei looked at Yulin with different eyes. Yulin waved her hands and said with a smile, okay, thank you for sharing the bedtime story. I'm going to sleep. You go first. See you tomorrow. Ah. Han Maimei and Lilei were shocked when they saw Yulin backhand and issued an eviction order. Yulin smiled and asked, you don't think I can do anything, do you? Don't think too much, I am a friendly engineer and I will not mess with your fire god festival. In the end, Han Mei and Li Lei left here with complicated emotions on their faces. From beginning to end, there was no exclamation mark on the foreheads of the two NPCs. It seemed like it was really just a lonely chat. So it's such a setting. While Yilin put on a clean bathrobe and soaked in the hot spring, she casually took out the tool and the death revolver, and meticulously carved criss-cross patterns on the death revolver. This game is really interesting. At the same time, a transparent film light ball floated slowly from the depths of the sea of clouds. But, the membrane is broken. It's finally here. Li Erpang cried and climbed ashore immediately. Only ghosts know what they experienced on the sea of clouds and in a ball. Xiao Chuer said with a straight face, I just want to find a place to take a bath. Ning Yu sighed, +1. After much hardship, they finally reached Poros. It seems the air is a bit stuffy. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer habitually checked their surroundings immediately to see if it was safe. After all, it's the giant fire beast, Boros. There's nothing surprising about it. Ning Yu smiled. At this moment, Xiao Chuer's expression changed slightly and she took out a small bottle from her arms. Fill it with water. Miraculously, in the water in the bottle, there was a mini mermaid with long pink hair, swimming slowly in the bottle and looking around with curious eyes. Hey! Romy Ya-chan. Long time no see. Li Erpang was about to come forward and show his courtesy, but he didn't expect that a tall figure appeared out of thin air behind Li Erpang, and slapped the little fat man's round head with a palm as big as a cattail leaf fan. Too fat, master, please respect yourself. Li Erpang shrank instantly. Romia, where is the village you mentioned? Ning Yu looked at the mini mermaid in the bottle and asked. This is the only unfinished task they have left in the mermaid country. Side mission, mermaid's wedding. Mission goal, find Romiya's lover, Kenai, in a sim village in the giant beast Poros, and witness their wedding. The mission rewards are experience and gold coins. There is also an item called Mermaid Tears. Time limit, none. Although it was just a side mission, since they came to Boros, Ning Yu and others planned to do it by the way. The task of killing monsters and clearing treasures is a must-have quality for every elite player. It is precisely because this task has no time limit that they put it off until the end. You have to come to Poros sooner or later anyway. Properly arranging mission routes is also an essential quality for elite players. After looking around for a while, Romiya in the bottle looked slightly disappointed. A sweet voice came from the bottle filled with water. Romiya doesn't know either. Kenai was once an outstanding salvage man in the Sea of Clouds. When Romiya was still young, he secretly took a bubble out to play. Unexpectedly, he could not return. Once the mermaid leaves the water for too long, it will completely turn into a mermaid. Bubbles turn into clouds and disappear into this world. At that time, Kenai saved Romiya. Not only did he not hurt Romia, he also brought Romia to the White Beach. There is a small lake in the White Beach, and it is so beautiful there. Every time Luomia is when Mia sings, Kenai will run out of the village, sit on a stone and listen to Romiya singing quietly. While Romiya recalled the sweet love story, two shy blushes of a girl appeared on her cheeks. Xiao Chuer was speechless. Why does this game give out sugar whenever you disagree? It's such a rhythm to torture singles to death. When Ning Yu heard this, he glanced at Xiao Chuer with a smile. Oh, you are single. Xiao Chuer chuckled and said, don't worry, I like handsome people. Li Erpang was held down by the divine sword Susu, but he pointed at his chubby face and echoed, beauty, have you ever considered a type that is not so obviously handsome? Click. Divine Sword Susu clenched his 5 fingers expressionlessly, and Li Erpang suddenly screamed in pain. After a brief interruption, Ning Yu returned to the business, no kidding. According to the existing information, that village should not be difficult to find. If Romiya's singing can reach the village, that means that the village should be there. Near the White Beach, if you find the White Beach, it shouldn't be difficult to find the village. Xiao Chuer agreed with Ningyu's reasoning. But she quickly put the small bottle containing Romiya into her arms, then took out the communication crystal and smiled. The more important thing is that we need to contact him quickly. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly ticket. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 398. The Land of Fire. In the hotel. Yilin, who was soaking in the hot spring, enjoying herself and concentrating on drawing crystal patterns on Death Revolver, suddenly stopped what she was doing. Communication crystal. Yilin put away the tools and took out the communication crystal. The long-lost Brave team re-established a group chat. Yilin, hey, you are not dead yet. Li Erpang, get out. Ningyu, brother Yilin, where are you now? Yilin did not hide anything. I am now in a place called the Land of Fire. Where are you? The Land of Fire? Ningyu asked Xiao Chuer to take out the water bottle containing Luomiya. After asking in a low voice, Luomiya shook her head and said she had never heard of this place. Ningyu could only say helplessly, we have just arrived at the Titan Beast Boros not long ago, and the specific location is ominous. However, after we left the Twin Lion Kingdom and were attacked by Li and another player, we luckily went to another place. A Titan, in the belly of Poseidon. Yilin, oh? Poseidon. Is he actually the giant beast in the Sea of Clouds? It's not important. Ningyu didn't talk too much and went straight to the point. In short, in Poseidon, after we gained the reputation of an NPC force called the Mermaid Country, we finally found out the content of the main mission. Yilin pondered for a moment, smiled, and took Ningyu's words, 6 evil generals, right? Li Erpang, You really secretly masturbated the boss. Xiao Chuer chuckled, as expected of you. Yilin, you don't really think that in this kind of game mechanism that doesn't take into account operation, I can kill the 6 evil generals with my current level, right? Li Erpang, that's right. It's unscientific. Then how did you kill the boss? Yilin, if I said, the boss was having diarrhea at that time, would you believe it? The 3 of them said in unison, how dare we believe you? Yilin, look, sometimes the story is too dramatic, and no one believes it when the truth is told. In short, there are some coincidences, and it's useless to talk about it now. Yilin's ambiguous tone made Ningyu and the others puzzled. They have already discovered that this guy has to listen backwards when he talks. Putting it this way, could it be that when Yilin killed the 6 evil general boss, the boss really had diarrhea? So Yilin got a ready advantage? In this kind of realistic game, it seems that it is not impossible. Li Erpang, Ningyu, and Xiao Chuer looked at each other in confusion. Yilin changed the topic smoothly, in short, the main mission is very clear. I think you also obtained a lot of information there. There is a boss called Evil God, which is equivalent to the final big devil in the game, and is ready to resurrect and destroy this world. And our current goal is to kill 6, find and kill the remaining 5-6 evil generals to prevent the resurrection of the big devil. That's right. Yilin summed it up brilliantly and without any flaws. The 3 of them agreed very much. Ningyu thought for a while and then said, we haven't found the map of Boros yet, and we don't know where the Land of Fire, brother Yilin, is. But we are almost at a place called Yasim Village Place. When do you think it's convenient for us to meet up? It doesn't matter. I still have a side mission here. I don't know if it has anything to do with the 6 evil generals. By the way, it is said that there is a large city called the Kingdom of Amara on Poros. Its size is estimated to be similar to the 2 Lions Kingdom. If you have a chance, you can go and inquire about it first. Xiao Chuer, how about we just agree to meet there? Anyway, we still have tasks on hand. Ning Yu nodded and agreed. Well, if you want to promote the main line of the game, level and equipment are indispensable. Since the Yilin brothers don't need help, we can also complete the task at hand first, and then go to Amara Kingdom Convergence. Yilin smiled and said, okay. The brave team immediately decided on the follow-up plan. There is no doubt about the goal: upgrade, spawn monsters, explode equipment, and push the main line. Simple and clear and concise. Although each teammate has his or her own small thoughts, in the general direction, the goals are the same, and there is no reason not to form a team. Finally, Li Erpang squeezed out another sentence through his teeth: don't think that I envy you. I don't envy you at all. What's the big deal if you take down the boss? Can you believe that the reputation of the mermaid country has been raised to respected? He, when we return to the mermaid country in the future, we will definitely be treated like VIPs. You are not the envy of the mermaid lady. Ah, wait a minute, Brother Su, don't. At the end of that sentence, Li Erpang suddenly screamed for some unknown reason. Yilin looked at his reputation panel. The holy sea of Aurano's hatred. Mermaid country respect. Grand Engineer College worship. Yes, I'm quite envious, Yilin said with some guilt. Right now. Bai Xiaoi, who had been waiting outside for a long time, finally couldn't bear it anymore and floated outside the curtain, complaining loudly. Master, why did you take so long to wash? My mother and I have been waiting for a long time. We want a bath in hot spring. Okay, hurry up. After Yilin finished speaking, he hurriedly said goodbye to the communication crystal. Anyway, that's it, I still have something to do here, please contact me regularly, bye. Do. Busy tone. The other side. Field. Li Erpang, who was having his head pressed by divine sword Susu, Xiao Chuer who was holding a small water bottle, and Ning Yu who was holding a communication crystal, all three of them froze in place instantly. Master. Mother. Have you washed it? Take a hot spring bath together? Xiao Chuer looked at Ning Yu strangely. Is the situation over there what I imagined? Dash. Why are all the good things happening to him? Li Erpang suddenly buried his head in the soil, like a sad fat ostrich, crying bitterly in the sand. After ending the call with her teammates, Yilin finished soaking in the hot spring and reconstructed the technique. Yilin has her own ideas about what kind of spell to construct on the death circuit. In fact, Yilin had a doubt about the main mission, but he didn't say it out loud. In the game, as the final boss, he will eventually appear in front of the player. Otherwise, what's the point of designing boss? But from the current situation, it seems that as long as the 6 evil generals are killed individually, the evil god can be prevented from resurrecting. Was it really that smooth? Yilin couldn't predict how the script would eventually develop. She could only take one step and count the other. Every day, Yilin would go out. The levels of the monsters around the Land of Fire fluctuate between LV50 LV60. Regarding Yilin's current level and the way to spawn monsters, it is really easy and enjoyable to kill a child with one knife. After going out every day and harvesting a wave of monsters, Yilin silently returned to the Land of Fire, pretending that she had never been there. Except for the evidence of the corpses of monsters crying everywhere, no one knew that Yilin went out to kill monsters every day. Although the levels of the surrounding monsters were not high, they were able to accumulate a little and eventually Yilin's level was comfortably raised to LV67. The next level requires 650,000 experience points. After Yilin allocated the God-given points, she opened the player attributes panel and took a look. The corners of her eyes twitched, and she quickly closed the panel again, out of sight. Master Engineer. Let's start. So, another 10 days passed. Han Mai rushed in panic. These days, Yilin has become familiar with Han Mai and Li Lei. Seeing that Yilin's door was open, Han Mai was anxious and couldn't help but barge in. After Han Mai entered the room, she found that the engineer was holding a strange pointer in his hand, frowning, not knowing what he was thinking about. Seeing this, Han Mai's voice stopped and she didn't know what to say next. Fire God Festival. Yilin smiled and looked as usual. She put away the weird pointer and stretched. It's all a good thing, isn't it? In the land of fire. It was the first time for Yilin to see so many people. All the villagers held paper umbrellas with flame patterns painted on them to block the ashes falling from the sky. The sky was filled with dust, and a neatly dressed girl who looked like a hibiscus walked onto a gorgeous sedan chair and was carried by 4 strong men. The villagers sang unknown songs in low voices. The girl in the ashes. Where are you? I met you when I was a child. What day was that? Pick up the basket and come to the Vulcan mountain. The mulberry trees are as green as shade. Pick the mulberry fruits and put them in a small basket. Could it be Menying? 15-year-old young lady. Marry somewhere far away, say goodbye to your hometown, and never come back. That's the bride of the god of fire. Among the ashes, there is the sunset, the bride in the sunset. In the hot sunset. It's the god of fire who is waiting for the bride. It was originally a ballad with quite cheerful lyrics, but in this situation, this sad tone was sung by so many people holding paper umbrellas, and the whole village was filled with a strange atmosphere. Yilin sighed, and Wang Tiandi swung his tail and followed Yilin. On the sedan chair, the black-haired girl, with an indifferent expression and empty eyes, was listening to the cheerful songs that the villagers were trying to sing with a dull expression. She suddenly bit her lower lip and tried hard to prevent herself from crying. Let's go. Send the bride of Vulcan. Kikyo was still wearing the red and white witch robe, white socks on her feet, and wooden clogs, and she walked at the front of the festival procession with an expressionless face. The simple longbow and quiver were on Platycodon's back and waist respectively. This piece of equipment looks more like it is ready for the battlefield than it is for a wedding. Li Lei and Han Mai were also in the bridal party. The people around me tried their best to smile and talked about how happy it was to marry Mr. Vulcan. They seemed extremely envious. You stay away. Yilin instructed Guzi. Guzi understands. After Yilin started to follow her like a shadow, she was mixed in the wedding procession, and no one noticed Yilin's existence. Yilin seemed to be isolated from the world, holding a paper umbrella and walking among the ashes. A large group of people, singing songs, sent the bride off along the road behind the village and up to the Vulcan mountain. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 399. At the same time, Li Erpang, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chu are teamed up to brush the monsters in the new leveling area. After getting along for so long, although they can't stand each other, the team configuration is very reasonable. As Li Erpang got bigger and bigger, his defense was frighteningly high, and he formed a bond with the divine sword Susu behind him. Li Erpang got fat alone, carrying a big shield in front of the other two, Ao taunts, attracting the monster's attention. At the same level, monster attacks are equivalent to tickling him. 1 tank, 2 DPS, monster farming is very efficient. Although Romiya didn't know the road very well, they looked here and had some impressions there, and they actually found the white beach that Romiya said. But when they arrived at the beautiful white beach that Romiya said, they were all stunned. As far as the eye can see, there is desolation. In the vast white sand, there is a depression about the size of Moonlight Village. The pit is also covered with fine sand. Not to mention a human, not even a monster. In the dry and hot climate, the rising heat causes the scenery in the distance to be slightly distorted, causing light refraction. How come? In the water bottle, Romeo looked at the white beach that was completely different from what she remembered, and she was also stunned. Romeo remembers that the white beach was full of beautiful white shells. There is a clear lake here. The lake is filled with red and white corals. Minnie Romeo lowered her head in the water bottle and murmured in a low voice with a sad voice, "But why have they all disappeared?" The place where Kenai listened to Romeo singing. Ningyu listened silently and suddenly felt something was wrong. "Wait a minute, you said there were originally a lot of corals here." Xiao Chuer noticed that Ningyu's tone was strange. "Is there something wrong?" "That's very wrong," Ningyu frowned and said in a lower voice, "Theoretically, coral is made up of a kind of aquatic life called coral polyps, which grow, die, and accumulate over time. Don't forget, the world's worldview, the giant beast is surrounded by a sea of clouds. Although cloud sea also contains the word sea, it is still cloud in essence. You always say that game settings do not need to be studied in depth, but for a successful game, the settings in it always need to be logically consistent, otherwise it has attracted many trolls to complain. A successful game will put some effort into the worldview, even if it is a fantasy game, they will work hard to make the worldview logically reasonable." Xiao Chuer understood Ningyu's words, her eyebrows furrowed slightly, and she said softly, "You mean?" Ningyu sighed softly, either the game designer has given up on trying to talk logic with the players. Or, this place used to be a sea. At least it was also a lake. In the end, the three of them were on the white beach and gained nothing. But they didn't find this place just for harvest. Romeo felt depressed when she saw that the once white beach had turned into a dead land. After finding this place, Ningyu and the other three successfully found the village that Romeo mentioned. Since Romeo said that the village was rich in salvagers, it was easy to find it by searching along the shore. Asim village. There is a small port in Asim village. There are many small airships docked in the port. These aerostats can only accommodate a few people, and they are not fast. These aerostats cannot be used to navigate between giant beasts. When Ningyu and others passed by the small port, they happened to see a small aerostat salvaged from Yunhaisi. The salvage crew wore equipment like a diving suit, and on the round hood, there was a pipe connected to the aerostat. Salvagers use the pulling force generated by this pipeline to enter the Sea of Clouds and salvage various relics sunk in the Sea of Clouds, making a living. "Excuse me, do you know Kenai?" Ningyu stepped forward and asked. Originally, the villagers looked at the three people with vigilance. But when Xiao Chuer came forward, the villagers instantly became enthusiastic again. And when they heard that they knew Kenai, they happily pointed out the way for Xiao Chuer. "Your charm is quite high." Xiao Chuer smiled slightly contentedly, "It's just average, probably only 2 or 3 times that of ordinary people." In Yasim village, there were only a few people walking on the road. It seems that most of them have gone to sea to salvage. As the three of them walked on the road, they would pay attention to whether there was an exclamation mark on the NPC's forehead from time to time. But they didn't really want to use the errands that rewarded petty profits, so they simply went straight to the Kenai's house. When we came to the place pointed by several salvagers, it was a small bungalow. It was estimated that Kenai's family was barely well off, not too shabby. A plainly dressed old woman was pushing a flatbed cart, using the vivid illustrations on the flatbed cart to tell stories to the children around her with a smile on her face. Ningyu and the other three stepped forward. Once upon a time, there lived a handsome salvager. One day, he met a mermaid. After getting closer, when the old woman spoke in a tone that sounded like a storyteller, Ningyu and the other three couldn't help but be stunned. It's actually a story about a mermaid. Originally, they wanted to go straight to the point and ask where Kenai was. But when they discovered that the old woman was actually telling a story about a mermaid, They all joined the children and listened quietly to the continuation of the illustrated story. But as they listened, the expressions of the three of them changed. At first, I listened to it with the intention of listening to a love story. After all, this opening is a typical mermaid love story. But no one expected that the style of the film would suddenly change and turn into a thriller. The old woman quickly switched to the next illustration. In the vivid illustration, there is a mermaid with a green face and fangs, which scared the little kids to howl. But although the little kids were yelling, they didn't have much look of fear on their faces. It seemed that they had heard the story more than once. The story from beginning to end is very simple. Once upon a time, there was a salvagman who went out to sea to salvage and met a fish. Ah no, mermaid. If a mermaid is out of the water for too long, it will turn into foam and disappear, so the salvager kindly rescued the mermaid. Before the salvage man met the mermaid, he already had a beautiful wife who was about to get married. He lived a happy life and was about to reach the peak of his life. But after saving the mermaid, the handsome boy hid the mermaid on the white beach and ran out of the village every night to listen to the mermaid singing. Really, it's just singing, the serious kind. Later, the mermaid returned to her hometown. The salvage worker seemed to be under a spell. He didn't think about food and drink, and was getting thinner day by day. Finally, died. No one can listen to the mermaid's song. Once you hear it, you will become as fascinated as the salvager. Hey, do you want to hear it? I won't listen, I won't listen, I won't listen. The children seemed to have known the old woman's scary tricks for a long time, but they were really frightened. They all covered their ears and ran away. In Xiao Chuer's arms, Luomia listened to the sad story from beginning to end, patting the inside of the water bottle vigorously. No, no, Kenai is still alive. He promised to come to me one day. There seems to be something wrong with this mission. Ningyu smiled bitterly and walked forward. Excuse me, is Kenai at home? The old woman smiled and looked at the three of them. Oh? Are you friends of Kenai? He went out to sea to salvage and came back at night. How about you come in and sit down? Kenai doesn't have many friends, so just stay for dinner tonight. Li Erpang was already hungry and rushed to agree. When Luomia heard that Kenai was fine, she immediately breathed a sigh of relief and stopped making trouble in Xiao Chuer's arms. Until evening. It's not good. It's not good. Kenai's old mother, Kenai, their boat was attacked by the sea monster Kulagan. Damn it! Ningyu and the other three who were about to finish the task while lying down at Kenai's house were instantly confused. Should I say it's a coincidence? Or is the plot of the game too outrageous? It didn't come sooner or later, but they came looking for him. Something happened to Kenai. Are you going to be so outrageous? Planner. Let go of that Kenai. The three members of the brave team clapped the table and stood up at the same time. In the Vulcan Mountain. Along the mountain wall, the previous generation of Fire Origin Village built a stable plank road, making it not difficult to go up the mountain. The plank road can accommodate 3 people. Platycodon is walking in front of it with a bow on its back. 4 strong villagers are holding the gorgeous sedan chair, which is covered with flowers. The remaining villagers held paper umbrellas and sang songs to send off the bride to the god of fire in the sky full of ashes. If she hadn't known the background of the story in advance, Yilin might have thought that this was a celebratory wedding procession. As the team went deeper into the Huashan mountain, Li Nailai, who was sitting on the sedan chair and biting her lip in silence, turned paler and paler. Between the white and neat teeth and round lips, a trace of blood was bitten out due to too much force, like adding a touch of lipstick to the bride's makeup. As the team deepens, the singing style gradually changes. Oh, dash. The villagers sympathized with each other with experience, weeping and complaining. To Yilin, the procession felt less and less like a wedding party and more like a funeral. It's just that the person who was sent is not dead yet. Still sitting on the sedan chair properly. The bride's face becomes paler. Like dead. Li Lei sent his sister off, holding the spear in his hand with his nails embedded in his flesh. Yilin followed the team steadily, no one noticed, no one knew, just like a shadow. His expression was calm, he had witnessed all this with his own eyes, his eyes were neither happy nor sad, just like a passerby. Yilin should ignore this matter. After all, he has not received any tasks so far. Even if you ruin this wedding ceremony, it's just a waste of time. There will be no experience points, no gold coins, no equipment, and no gains. What's the point? Yilin has been thinking about this problem. This is just a game. He is just a player trapped in the game world. The savior, the brave, the kind assassin, the great engineer, all identities are just settings in the game, and everything is illusory. But for some reason, he always felt a little uncomfortable. Whether it was the depression that filled the sky with ashes, or the girl who was about to be sacrificed, or the Platycodon in front of the team carrying a long bow, or the sad and indifferent people of the fire country, everything made Yilin feeling uncomfortable. Finally, the team followed the plank road and reached the mountainside. There is a deep cave here. The hot breath breathed out from the cave. The closer it got to the cave, it seemed that even the fur was scorched, which was unbearable. Here we are. Kikyo said calmly. Li Nei's already pale face on the sedan chair was as white as a piece of paper. But she still gritted her teeth and staggered down from the sedan chair silently. The other villagers watched the two of them enter the cave one after the other. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 400. Platycodon was in front, taking small steps and holding the long bow tightly in his hand. Li Nei was like a walking corpse, wearing a wedding dress and following behind in a daze. Yilin followed. After knowing that Kikyo had a skill similar to Sword Master Realm Selfless Realm that could improve the sixth sense, Yilin did not dare to follow too closely. However, in the dark and hot cave, darkness is Yilin's best protective color. There are shadows everywhere, and the effect of his skills is maximized. In the cave, stalactites of different shapes stand upside down on the top. Although there are stalactites in the cave, it is extremely hot inside. There is a faint smell of burning in the air, and even the air sucked into the lungs seems to be mixed with blades, causing bursts of cuts in the chest from time to time. Pain. In the cave, some unique monsters appear from time to time. Tar slime. LV62. Flame cockroach. LV63. By the way, who designed this kind of cockroach that is bigger than Wang Tiandi? Speaking of Emperor Wang Tian, I don't know where he went, and he has not been seen yet. But that's okay, Yilin is alone and it's easier to move around. No more playing with the dog. Let it lie down wherever it is cool. Facing all kinds of monsters, Kikyo looked normal. When he saw monsters from a distance, he bent his bow and shot arrows with skillful movements. What a high attack! Yilin hid in the dark and watched Kikyo's arrow shooting action from a distance, speechless. It's not like he has never seen battles between NPCs. The battle between NPC and monsters also follows the turn-based rules. But before the turn-based rules come down, there will be an opportunity to attack first. If the output of initial attack is high enough, then the turn system will be over before it even starts. Even if Li Erpang and others were at their current level, if they returned to the novice village in Lebu town to bully children and monsters, they might be able to achieve the one-hit kill effect. In the Kingdom of Two Lions, Homeros, the great knight of the kingdom, used just one move Sword Master Domain, the ultimate of thousands of refinements to instantly kill the puppet monster king with one sword before the turn system took effect, achieving the devouring goal. Lord's achievements. In the Vulcan Mountain Cave, the monster levels are all above L60. Even if Yulin takes action, with various bonuses, he still has to use a complete set of combos to barely be able to kill an ordinary monster at level 60 in an instant. But Platycodon can kill a child with one arrow. This attack power is too terrifying. Kikyo moves easily and kills monsters without any pressure. If she hadn't taken care of the confused Lineali, her forward speed might have been twice as fast. Kikyo didn't push. She didn't even look back. It's like for Kikyo, all this is just a task. Nothing could shake her heart. I do not know how long it has been. Yulin followed Kikyo and grabbed a lot of trophies dropped by the monsters. As the three of them went deeper, the surrounding temperature rose sharply. Yulin was sweating all over in the cave. Looking at Platycodon grandiflorum again, it seemed that she was not feeling well in this situation. Her whole body was wet and her curves were convex and warped. Lineali was even worse. She was at a lower level. She seemed to have lost weight when she walked from the entrance of the cave. The water in her body was lost as sweat evaporated, leaving her in a state of mild dehydration. We're approaching the center of the volcano. Where exactly does she want to take Lineali? In the center of the volcano, is there really? Yulin quietly wiped his sweat, and thoughts flashed through his mind. The air in front of him seemed to turn red. As far as the eye can see, everything is a fiery red. Under the scorching heat, the air twisted, and the surrounding stone walls also showed strange lines. After walking some distance deeper, there were no more monsters in sight. -2. -3. -3. Numbers suddenly appeared on Yulin's forehead. What the hell? Yulin was startled. Actually, he lost blood. The scorching heat was so exaggerated that Yulin lost her blood. Yulin couldn't laugh or cry. Is this what you call terrain damage? But even though Yulin's health was declining at a certain speed, she was still lucky that her figure was not exposed. Looking at Platycodon grandiflorum and Lineali again, damage numbers also appeared above their heads. Although the number is not large. But if you stay any longer, you will be heated to death here sooner or later. This game world is indeed extremely realistic. No matter the pain, feeling, or various environmental factors, everything is done just like the real thing. Many times, if it weren't for the game interface, if it wasn't turn-based, if it wasn't for the damage numbers that would appear when being beaten, it would be hard for Yulin to think that she was in a game world. Everything in this world, from Rab Town, to the Moonlight Jungle, to Izada Port, to the Kingdom of Two Lions, to the Great Engineer Tower, and finally to the Land of Fire, all of this gives Yulin a sense of reality that is hard to fault. It feels like you are really in a real world. Yulin was in a daze for a moment. Platycodon and Lineali seemed to have arrived at their destination. Their footsteps stopped. The confused Lineali seemed to have lost her ability to think. After Kikyo stopped, she was still unaware and almost bumped into Kikyo. If Kikyo hadn't expected it, they would have collided with each other. This is the center of the volcano. In front of Yulin, thick dust floated. Visibility is extremely low. Yulin quickly took out the anti-gray mask and put it on. The hot air and the ashes everywhere made the space feel like a Shura field. Sizzling. White smoke appeared faintly on the ground beneath Platycodon grandiflorum and Lineali's feet, where it came into contact with the clogs. It is not difficult to imagine how quickly the health points will drop if you step on the ground with bare feet at this time. Surrounding the irregular clearing is hot magma. The flowing magma and the red firelight illuminate the space, making it look like a red-hot oven. Above the head is a circular exit. This is the very center of the volcano. They are in the heart of the Vulcan mountain. What are they doing here? Are they having a picnic? Just when Yulin was wondering, Kikyo supported the limp Li and lowered her head. The red magma fire cast a mottled shadow on the three-dimensional facial features of Platycodon grandiflorum. Suddenly, Gilialo. In the center of the volcano, the magma around the hot platform bubbled out, making a popping sound. While the magma was rolling, the already hot space became even more ridiculously hot. The most obvious manifestation is that Yulin's health points dropped faster, which made him have no choice but to pour a bottle of potion into his mouth to replenish his blood. Hoo-hoo! Overhead, a shadow suddenly passed by. A strong wind suddenly blew up, and the ashes floating in front of him formed turbulences visible to the naked eye in the sudden strong wind, evolving into strange and restless shapes in the twisted air. Yulin raised her head in surprise. He squinted his eyes, trying to discern the shape of the black shadow among the raging wind and ashes. Roar! A deafening roar came from the direction of the black shadow. The shock hurt Yulin's ears. In an instant, Yulin only felt a buzzing sound, and her eardrums hurt. There was only a harsh sound, and no other sound could be heard. On the top of the spacious volcanic cave, a figure about 10 meters long spread its wings to its fullest. Around the platform, the surging magma simultaneously rolled up pillars of magma and fired into the sky. Its boss. Yulin's expression changed slightly. With such exaggerated appearance special effects, he would never have guessed that the black shadow that caused the drastic change in the environment was none other than the boss entrenched in the volcano. Fire Dragon Yaksha, Curse. Weak. LV70. Yulin. This? Yulin subconsciously took out the knife. It's a boss after all, but it's only level 70. With your level, it's hard for me to hold back from poking you. The huge fire dragon covered the sky and the sun. But for this mere level 70 boss, it was difficult for Yulin to feel nervous. Although this game is very real. But everything in the game is based on rules. In the turn-based system, level and equipment are king. No matter how domineering the boss is, the level is right there, even giving Yulin the illusion of I can defeat this boss in seconds. Of course, Yulin also noticed that the suffix of this boss and the attached weakness status were a bit weird. At this time, Yulin couldn't care less. Let's cut it down. It's you. After Yulin quickly approached, a complicated look flashed in Gujing Liubo's black eyes, which was supporting Li Nali's Kikyo. She quickly bent her bow, knocked the arrow, and assumed a posture about to shoot. In an instant, the yellow name on the top of Platycodon's head, which represented neutrality, instantly turned red. So red. Fire Source Mycoplatycodon. LV? The level has actually been improved. The NPCs in the game can be suddenly upgraded. The legendary plot kill? The kind that specializes in killing players? So this is the real difficulty of this boss battle? Then kill him. Red and green rays of light appeared on the daggers in both hands. Yulin turned into a shadow and moved quickly around the field. Although the fight hasn't started yet, Yulin's health points are slowly declining in the harsh environment. Magma is gushing out all around, and the space on the platform is limited. Kikyo stood in the center of the platform, her long bow fully drawn, like a fort, with cold eyes, searching for Yulin's traces. In the shrine, Yulin has tried it out. Kikyo's skills seem to only be able to detect someone, but even she can't find Yulin's true location. The flying fire dragon approached quickly and roared with unknown meaning. Yulin only discovered before taking action that the surface of the male fire dragon's skin was peeling off and full of cracks. There were constantly thin ash. The skin peeled off from the male fire dragon's body and merged into the surrounding space. Together with the countless ash, it grew stronger. Together. So this is the source of the ashes in the land of fire. The male fire dragon is in a weak state. Looking at the boss's posture, the ashes seem to be the fragments of its broken body. That's it? Yi Lin's eyes flashed, and he suddenly seemed to understand everything. He looked at the stern expression of Kikyo not far away. The light of the two daggers hesitated for a moment, and finally, without any mercy, suddenly turned into the shadow of the two daggers. The male fire dragon shook into the air. The moment Yi Lin caused damage to the male fire dragon. Ding. Trigger Special Open Side Mission, Redemption. Mission Objective 1, Kill the Miko of the Land of Fire, Platycodon. Mission Goal 2, Kill Fire Dragon Yaksha, Curse. Completing one of the mission objectives is considered as completing the mission. It can also be completed at the same time. Mission time limit, before Li Nali's health is exhausted. Task reward, unknown. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 401. Let go of that Naki. Oh no, let go of that Kinai. Li Erpang was angry. The three of them did not dare to delay, so they directly took the villager's small salvage aerostat and set sail. In the sea of clouds not far from the shore. Sure enough, there were several small aerostats that were being tightly entangled by countless thick tentacles, unable to break free. Sea Monster Kulagan. LV60. After Nengyu and others approached, they saw the level and name of the boss from a distance. Only level 60. Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang are all skilled players who are used to big winds and waves in the game. A mere level 60 boss cannot support the boss's power at all. Nonsense. You don't deserve to be boss. The three of them went up to kill him. Enter the battle. 10 minutes later. Congratulations. Defeat Sea Monster Kuragan. Get. Along with the bright golden light, the three of them each rose to a level. Beautiful. Huh? What is this? With a boom, before the boss turned into ashes and disappeared, another red treasure chest with gold edges exploded. The violence rate is so high. I'll do it, I'll do it. Li Erpang immediately touched the treasure chest without waiting for his teammates to agree. Get the multifunctional mini tentacle. Li Erpang. I saw a flexible and moist tentacle in Li Erpang's hand. He was holding it in his hand, twisting it around, flexibly and in various postures. Ah, this? What does it mean when all attributes are unknown? Multifunction. Isn't it for eating? What else can it be used for? Li Erpang looked confused. This sea monster Kulagan is an octopus sea monster. It's not surprising that tentacles can explode. It can be grilled, boiled, and sliced for sashimi. There are many ways to cook and eat it. Li Erpang became hungry as soon as he saw the tentacles. But the addition of the word multifunctional always made him feel that something was wrong. Okay, don't worry about details like this. However, Xiao Chuer snatched the trophy away, her pretty face flushed and burning, as if she was smoking. While Ningyu and Li Erpang were not paying attention, Xiao Chuer quickly put the multifunctional tentacle into the prop, straightened her mind, and said, "Hurry up and find the mission NPC." The three of them were like gods coming down to earth, chopping vegetables and melons. After killing the legendary Kulagan, the villagers on other aerostats who were scattered by the tentacles were all in shock. When they came to their senses, the villagers' eyes looked at the three people, filled with a kind of emotion called admiration. There was a ding in Li Erpang's ear. He casually opened the panel and took a look. Ouch, let me go. Does reputation mean friendly? Isn't it too easy to brush? The folk customs are simple and honest. Which of you is Kenai? Ningyu took advantage of the fact that his reputation had increased and he could speak among the villagers NPCs, so he asked quickly. Kenai. The name of the village pointed not far away. On an airship that had been horribly ravaged by the tentacles of sea monster Kuragan, a young man with dark skin and strong features with a hint of greenness was leaning on the edge of the deck, breathing heavily. He was breathing heavily, as if he hadn't come back to his senses yet. "Are you Kenai?" The three of them stepped forward, quickly completed the task, and left. The way elite players complete missions is so unpretentious and boring. Go straight. You know me." The young Kenai was stunned. Li Erpang looked at the young man in front of him, and for some reason, the appearance of the divine sword Susu suddenly flashed in his mind. Suddenly he whispered in a sour tone, "I worked hard, crossed the mountains and the sea of clouds, and brought your wife here. Take your wife away quickly, don't look at it. I am so envious. Ah, wife." When the Kenai boy heard this, he was frightened. Xiao Chuer was in a very good mood. There is a sense of accomplishment that comes from being the host of a dating show and witnessing someone's excitement, and the two finally holding hands successfully. Xiao Chuer quickly took out the water bottle, pointed at the stunned Luomiya in the bottle, and said with a smile, "Hey, do you still remember that year at the Daming Lake? Ah, do you still remember the mermaid lady on the white beach? In a water bottle." Romiya's reaction was a little strange. She pressed hard on the inner wall of the water bottle with both hands and looked at Kenai, speechless for a long time. Kenai's eyes widened and he soon noticed the elegant and beautiful figure in the water bottle. But suddenly, deng deng deng. After Kenai saw Romiya clearly in the water bottle, he suddenly jumped up and ran backwards, escaping from one side of the deck to the other side of the deck, as if he had seen a ghost. "Help, help, help. It's a mermaid. It's a mermaid." Kenai's overreaction made Xiao Chuer, who was originally preparing to celebrate the successful mating of a man and a fish, a pair of lovers that spanned species, suddenly dumbfounded. What expansion is this? And at this time, Romiya seemed to be crying in the water bottle. No, he's not Kenai. Vulcan Mountain, interior, cave. This place is like an oven. The angry male fire dragon's body collapsed faster the moment it spread its wings, its skin peeled off, and when it came into contact with the air, it turned into fine ashes. Yilin suddenly launched a series of moves. The mission has been triggered, and Yilin has even more reasons to take action. -12. -20. Two damage numbers of different colors pop up from the top of the head of the male fire dragon. When she saw the two damage values, Yilin couldn't help but squint her eyes, thoughtfully. Weak. Logically speaking, these two are just debuff skills and should not cause such high damage to the LV-70 boss. But it still jumped. That means that this boss in a weak state has far lower defense and resistance to debuffs than Yilin imagined. After his forehead turned green and red, the roar of the male fire dragon seemed to be filled with more painful emotions. Yaksha. Kikyo became anxious. She took a step forward and looked around, as if she wanted to find Yilin's presence among the mottled shadows, but she failed. No one knows stealth better than Yilin. Even though Kikyo's level is unfathomable, it is nothing compared to the effects of Yilin's skills. Back when Yilin was only in her early 30s and seemed like a newbie among players, she had faced off with Homeros that night in the Kingdom of Two Lions. Even Homeros's ultimate move Sword Master Realm, Selfless Realm can only vaguely detect Yilin's position, but cannot really identify Yilin. This shows how terrifying Yilin's skills are. Yilin smiled slightly. Taking advantage of his free time, he revealed the rule breaker. With the blessing of the title, this cheating becomes more confident. -2. -3. -1. Along with the hot environment all around, red damage numbers popped up on Yilin's forehead. But for Yilin, this is actually not a bad thing. In Izada Port, when Yilin, Li Erpang, and others knocked on the door of the Holy Sea branch, Yilin confirmed one thing. The so-called combat state is actually broken down into two types. One is that you are really fighting, and you are in a fighting state under the restrictions of turn-based rules. The other is when the player causes damage to the building and the building shows its health bar, It is also considered an alternative combat state. Now it's the third type. In Yilin's skill bar, all the combat skills that shouldn't have lit up at this time all lit up. In a special injury scene, Yilin was constantly suffering injuries, and she was actually in a different kind of combat state. This game has a lot of loopholes. Yilin's eyes moved and she quickly said something out of sight of Kikyo. Let the world feel pain from now on. Disaster plagued. The invisible and colorless power of disaster seems to come from words, but also seems to come from the dark. The moment Yilin said those words, her own innate skill, Disaster Haunted, was activated instantly. Kikyo, who was searching for Yilin's figure, turned pale suddenly, looked frightened, and trembled all over. He suddenly knelt on the ground. The terrifying high temperature instantly burned out a faint white smoke on Kikyo's Maiko robe and knees. Platycodon, kneel down. The real difficulty of this boss battle is actually Platycodon. As an archer, Kikyo can be keenly aware of Yilin's location and can also perform long-range output. This is undoubtedly a huge threat to Yilin, who has little health. But when Yilin used Disaster Haunting to control Kikyo, this threat disappeared. All that's left is the weak fire dragon. Where the fire dragon is located, there is no terrain connection that the shadow can attach to. The boss was originally flying in the sky, but Yilin had no other choice but to summon Night Dire to deal damage on a motorcycle. But in the special combat state, Yilin can be said to have the qualifications to use full firepower. Even skills that cannot be used normally can be used in the damage scene where blood is constantly lost. Yilin shook her little hand, and the dagger flashed in mid-air, and flew to the back of the male fire dragon's head. Transformation. The point is, breathe. Shadow kill. Following like a shadow. Concentrate. After image clone. Shadow kill. Venom assassination. Tear the wound. In just a moment, Yilin appeared behind the male fire dragon. The light of the two daggers flowed, the breathing rhythm switched, and each skill was smoothly added to the daggers. After using the after-image clone, Yilin clone appeared on both sides of Yilin. The movements of the two clones were exactly the same as Yilin's. The shadow of the dagger in his hand also shone with red and green light. In fact, at this time, using Grasp of Annihilation may make the output more terrifying. But what Yilin is worried about is that with his current ultra-low luck value, if the Annihilation effect is triggered again, this wave of experience points will be lost directly to Annihilation in minutes. After a long day of hard work, the gain outweighs the loss, so it is better to be honest. Stab it down with two knives. Shadow-shattering blow. Yilin's figure emerged from the twisted shadow. At the moment of appearance, his power was concentrated at one point. Yilin even made a big red X on the back of the male fire dragon's head, and stabbed the X on the back of the male fire dragon's head with two daggers with incomparable precision. Laugh. -8741. -8741. -8741. With 3 times the happiness, Yilin tried her best to focus the bonus of all skills on this sword. In addition to the shadow of the dagger of the after-image clone, there were 6 daggers stabbed at the back of the male fire dragon's head at this moment. In an instant, 3 large numbers bounced up at the same time. Click. The smelly and hot blood spurted out from where Yilin had stabbed it, splashing all over Yilin. Wherever the dagger struck, there was a crisp sound of bone cracking. The male fire dragon let out a scream that made the listeners cry with sadness, and suddenly folded its wings in the air, and the whole dragon fell straight from the air to the ground. Yilin's actions were clearly, slaying a dragon.